that lingers when night is gone. Twin cities hum with stories spun. Jon Justice rides the rising sun. See my fizz in a plastic cup. Star Wars dreams keep lifting him up. Costco aisles is sacred ground where neon shadows spin around.
Since I have been able to officially go and thank the AI overlords for the Zima Fizz theme song. You see, the previous employer, my previous employer, who shall not be named on this new show. I thought about coming up with a different way to say it, and I hadn't landed on anything good. So, like, in your head, you can complete the sentence of, Jon Justice used to work for blank blank. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, and we have assistant producer Isaac is here with me this morning. Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, John. Happy to be here with you.
So we'll be talking with Isaac quite a bit. But so Jon Justice previously worked for blank blank, but I don't want to say blank blank. So I'm like, well, how else could I say that? And I was like, ooh, what if I did like me muscle?
I like that.
See, you
think that's fun.
that works, right?
Yeah,
I used to work for me muscle.
I like that.
Sounds a little strange. But I used to work for Me Muscle. Now we'll be talking about this. And at Me Muscle, they had this whole deal of guaranteed human that they launched. And what's nice about no longer working for Me Muscle is I can now actually voice my opinion about the whole guaranteed human campaign, because I just thought it was really dumb. I thought it was really, really stupid. And the reason I thought it was so stupid was because there's currently no backlash as it relates to AI right now. If it hadn't been for our AI overlords and AI, I'm confident that what you're listening to right now in this dry run, soft launch of the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment, because everybody who's going to be listening to this will be after the announcement that would have taken place today, if you happen to be listening to this on Saturday via the podcast, or watching this on YouTube, as we're recording this on Thursday. If it hadn't been for our AI overlords, everything that you see around me right now in the video and what you hear on the show today probably would not have been possible. It was absolutely incredible how helpful AI was in going and figuring out and problem solving everything that needed to happen, and all of the connections and plugins and everything to make all of this work. So we are not going with guaranteed human on the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. And again, because there's no public backlash to any of this. There's no real outrage. There's no anger towards artificial intelligence right now. So the idea that we are guaranteed human, well, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's great. Okay. Like, if you had a bunch of hosts or entertainment outlets providing content that suddenly were now utilizing AI instead of live hosts, then I can see the value. See, we're not like the other guys. You see, the other guys, they're not human. They're all artificial intelligence. We here at Me Muscle, we are guaranteed human. It's so much fun that I can talk about all this stuff now. And I'll get to what's transpired, how I ended up here at Center of the American Experiment. And I couldn't be happier about this. By the way, I've been working with Isaac since I joined the group a couple of weeks ago. Went on my road trip. We'll talk about that on the show today. But since I've gotten here, I've learned. I've absolutely learned a ton. Not only about American Experiment, but what it takes to go and run an actual show. But when it came to the Guaranteed Human, they Me Muscle put out a memo. This was probably, I don't know, going on 6 months ago. We got the memo that we were moving towards this Guaranteed Human bid, whatever you want to call it, policy. And I'm like, well, wait a second, because we've been using parodies on the show that have been created by AI. I mean, the whole Zima Fizz. I mean, Max Reimer, who will be joining us on the first official Freedom Friday, next Friday, live. He was the one that created the Zima Fizz song. And so when they made, and it was probably a few weeks after we had it. We hadn't been playing Zima Fizz for very long when all of this, when this memo came out about being Guaranteed Human. And I was like, well, wait a second. I want to use the intro. I mean, I'm Guaranteed Human. I'm a flawed individual.
Can we be sure about that?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Well, I did go see my cardiologist this week, and yeah, I'm pretty human. So I talked with corporate. I talked with lawyers within iHeart, like immediately. I was like, hey, so I know we're this Guaranteed Human, but at the same time, we've got these really cool AI songs that we'd like to play. Does this fit into the idea of being Guaranteed Human? And so I had to wait for a response from the corporate fuddy-duddies, from Me Muscle, to which I was pretty much told, yeah, you shouldn't be using that. But they didn't even have an answer. Like, I want to assume that that Me Muscle had data to look at. Like, I want to assume that they did research. I want to assume that they said, this would be really popular with our audience. I'm just getting the feeling that didn't happen. I ended up, for those that were listening to the previous show, I did end up playing Zima Fizz every single Friday. I was just like, you know what? I don't think they're paying attention to my show. Clearly, at one point, they started paying attention to me because they ended up singling me out and letting me go, which was the best, absolutely the best thing that could have possibly have happened to me. But I decided, you know what? If they want to get on me for playing Zima Fizz on Friday, they can get on me for playing Zima Fizz on Friday. So here, on the new Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment, we are not Guaranteed Human. I have no problem utilizing AI, although I don't plan on using AI to go and host the show. All right, so here's what these. So we have two shows planned for the launch and the announcement of the show that's taking place, or will have taken place on Friday. I'm going to have to wrap my head around. When I'm talking about this, because I have stories in the stack to talk about today on the show, and I'm like, okay, again, nobody's going to hear this until after Saturday, so a lot of this stuff is going to have aged. So I've made little notes to myself. Hey, make sure that you mention that, these stories may be outdated by the time you go and hear this podcast. So we wanted to make sure that we did a couple of dry run shows, as Isaac will attest. I've been here in the office at Center of the American Experiment now, so I guess just barely a week and a half. I had gone on vacation almost immediately after I got let go. What was less than a month ago was the 24th. So tomorrow will be 1 month to the day, which is really kind of interesting. All of this is fascinating. At least it is to me, because it involves me. So, of course, it's going to be fascinating, right? But we've been working on putting this together because we had no infrastructure to do a live show Monday through Friday Podcasts are done here. I'm staring at the set for Catherine and Grace and the Center of the American Experiment podcast, which we'll probably end up utilizing on Friday mornings. And of course, if you're watching, this is relevant. If you happen to be listening to the show, it's not as relevant, but hopefully you'll go and check out because we've put a lot of effort into designing a background here. We have our in studio mascot for those that are watching. This is not Grogu. This is Shogru. Shogru is Grogu's brother. He's been ostracized. He's kind of the, I know he's green, but he's kind of the black sheep of the family. So he's now joined the show as our mascot. That's Shogru. I've had him for like a couple of years, and I never took him out of the box. And he's kind of moved his way around the house, and he ended up with my collection of Star Wars toys in my office. And I was getting ready to leave this morning, and I was like, hey, and I immediately paused, and I went, that's not Grogu. That is Shogru. And Shogru is going to be the studio mascot. I'm kind of regretting it, though, because excuse me, as I was pointing out to Isaac a moment ago, in the camera shot, and just go check out the YouTube video just to see for yourself. Like, he looks bigger than me, even though he's not. Like, just the way the camera is framed, he looks like he's bigger than my head. So, we'll see how long Shogru lasts. So, here's what we're doing. We're going to do 2 dry run shows, and these are, of course, available. You're listening to this via the podcast, and again, on YouTube as well, Thursday and Friday. And it really is just to make sure that all the equipment is working properly, that everything is functioning the way that we want it to function for when we officially go and launch the show on Monday. So for those that are listening or watching via the podcast and you want to know how do you listen live, so there will be a live link available at AmericanExperiment.org. And that should actually be up on the website now. Also, you can download the free MixLR, and it's just like it sounds, MixLR, the free MixLR app, and just search for Jon Justice, and you will find our official Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment. And you can listen there live, and the show will be 6 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We wanted to do our best to replicate the experience that you had on the former Me Muscle show. It kind of sounds gross. It sounds a little gross. Did you go see, Isaac, did you go see Project Hail Mary?
I did.
Okay. Did you like Project Hail Mary?
I absolutely loved it.
Okay, yeah. If you didn't, I was going to have to ask you to leave. I'm just letting you know.
Fantastic movie. Watched it a couple times, actually.
Yeah. So did we. I may watch it again. This weekend. Funny side note on that. I had seen it out of the gate because I was excited for it. Had read the book, and on one of the Freedom Fridays, it was the first Freedom Friday that we had on the Me Muscle show. I may have to change it just because I'm not going to be able to stop laughing every time I do. But I had. Oh no! I forgot. This is how it went down. So the first Friday after I saw it, Catherine was with us. And I asked her, and I shouldn't have because she doesn't really do movies. Katherine Johnson doesn't do. I mean, she does, but she's not into the pop culture stuff. This is more up Grace's alley. So I told Grace the previous week, I said, you really need to go see this. And now apparently she absolutely loves it. She's seen it multiple times as well because it's like the best film of the year. And the whole reason I bring this up in the book. Did you read the book?
I did not. No.
Okay, so in the book. Are we okay to do spoilers now? It's been long enough, right?
It's been long enough.
Okay. So at the end of the film, okay, he's in a foreign... We'll put it this way. He's in a foreign place, and they didn't address this in the movie, but in the book they did. It's like, okay, well, Rocky, his Rocky alien friend, eats differently than Grace does. So how is Grace going to go and sustain himself? Well, in the book, they explain that they actually used DNA from his own body to create meat that he could eat. And I believe he called it me meat. Which was partly my inspiration for me muscle. So, the plans for this podcast or video that you are watching is I do have some material to go through. I also want to lay out what happened because I think a lot of people want to know what the heck happened. And I want to provide details on that. And I wanted to do that via a podcast before the official show launch. That way, when we start the show on Monday morning, we can really hit the ground running and just get right into the material. So I do have material to share with you this morning. I kind of want to get as caught up today, Thursday and Friday, with a lot of the big stories that I simply have not been able to talk about over the course of the past month. And also, like I said, tell the story of what happened, my journey, my road trip across the country with Kyle, which I could honestly spend the next 2 hours and 45 minutes talking about. It was just, it was a really incredible journey and enlightening on so many different levels and relatable to a lot of what I want to talk about this morning, and specifically what I talked about. And again, I have to think about this retrospectively. I haven't done my speech yet. I have my speech. It's sitting on the laptop. I know what's in my speech. I know what I'm going to have said in my speech. So now I have to act as if I've already said that. But the road trip was really inspirational for the words that I will share and that I did share on Saturday, because it was just a really enlightening, eye-opening experience. As a matter of fact, this whole month has been that way for me. It's the first time in years that at least for a full 2 weeks, I was completely able to disconnect from all the news. Like, even when I've gone on vacations on previous jobs in my 30 years of doing radio, I've never been able to just go and disconnect from the news and take a break and not bothered to look at anything. And for 2 solid weeks, I was able to do that. And it was helpful to me, and it gave me a unique perspective on the stuff that we talk about on a daily basis. And it was a confirmation of what I had thought. And that is that if you can disconnect from the news, and it's probably the worst thing that I should say as I launch a new show, because I want everybody listening to it. But if you can disconnect from the news, life in this country is incredible. And things are actually really good. I know we've got issues. The state certainly has a ton of issues. We'll talk about that. It doesn't mean that those problems that are off in the background haven't gone away, but it does mean, and I think it's insightful when you consider the upcoming elections, average voters. Not everybody goes and checks out shows like this are involved. To think about the mindset of the individual who was more like I was for those 2 weeks, completely disengaged from everything. It speaks to how powerful the messaging is for any party, but particularly when it comes to the left. Because the left has taken this, and in the stack today, it just goes back to a month ago when I was, the last show I did. This TDS anti-Trump stance on everything, to the point of going and pardoning convicted child abusers. Pedophiles, for crying out loud. And what Walz and Ellison did before this illegal alien was deported. That messaging, I now realize, resonates a lot more with individuals, the broken and the brainwashed, than I could have imagined, especially for those that are disconnected. Because if that's all they're hearing, if they're not listening to other shows, if they're not paying attention to the media, and they're just hearing the rhetoric coming from the left, it speaks volumes as to why so many people are falling for so much of this nonsense right now, and why the Democrat Party has become such an absolute just mess. It's a dumpster fire right now. There's a handful of voices out there that are pushing back on it. I have some clips that I'll share later on in the show regarding that. Specifically, Bill Maher had some comments to say, but a really fascinating interview with Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones that came out a couple of weeks ago that I'll grab and I'll share on the show as well. So we'll talk about what happened. I'll do that coming up here in just a moment. Talk about the road trip that my son and I took. I do want to get you updated on what's been going on with Iran and the renewed kinetic activity that has been taking place with Iran. And again, this information is probably going to be dated by the time you're able to go and check out the show. We do have a brand new comment line where you can go and leave. We haven't landed on a name yet. I want to move off of talkbacks. Isaac, has anything stuck with you? I've thrown out so many things and none of it seemed to land,
Nothing really lands.
Nothing's going.
Yeah. Nothing much going on up here.
I had quips for a while. Leave a quip. I like to talk smacks, and I had been saying talk smacks, but then my wife, who I love dearly, was like, "It sounds like a cereal."
She's got a point.
She does have a point. She also said, "But they're not talking smack." I go, I get it. So. We do have a comment line. That's just what I'm calling it now. We do have a comment line. I'll share the comment line here in a bit. I've already shared this up online for some people to leave some comments, and so we will get to some of those as well. I do have a brand new email address. Don. I changed my name to Don. Everybody, I'm now Don Justice. No, Jon Justice. Jon.justice@americanexperiment.org. Jon.justice@americanexperiment.org is where you can go and email. So before we get into exactly what happened, why am I no longer with Me Muscle? Why am I here at Center of the American Experiment? How did this whole thing come about? I'll tell you the story in just a moment. First off, though, let me go ahead and give you some behind the scenes. So for those listening, you'll hear the audio. For those watching, you'll see the video. I shot this about a week ago here at the offices of Center of the American Experiment because I wanted to document as best I could because, like I said, we've just been absolutely slammed busy trying to get all of this together. But I shot this because I wanted some behind-the-scenes footage of how all of this transpired. Because it was a lot of work and a lot of effort. So here's a few minutes of me explaining kind of where we were, and you'll see the difference between what is in this video and audio compared to what I'm actually surrounded by now as well here on the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment. So there's a handful of people outside of American Experiment that have been aware loosely of what's been going on, my working with American Experiment and getting ready for the return of the show. That being said, those individuals continue to sort of ask questions of, well, what is it that you need to put together? Why is it taking as long as it is? Because American Experiment obviously produces content, video content, and podcasts. And so I decided, you know what, let me go ahead and do some behind the scenes of where we are right now after essentially a week's worth of work. And then we'll have some videos showing the completed product. So I was out on my road trip after being let go from iHeart. And so I was working from the road, and I'll be talking about this especially on the soft launch shows, which are available up online via video and podcast on whatever platform that you want to watch them on. So while I was traveling the country with my son Kyle, Arizona and California and back, and burning the tires off of Monty, my Kia Stinger, I was actually doing quite a bit of work talking with the people here at Center of the American Experiment, preparing for what we needed to do over the course of the 2 weeks before the launch of the show on July 27th. So once I got back into town, I started coming in to the offices here at Center of the American Experiment on that Monday, and kind of working a 7 to 3, 8 to 4 shift. I've actually been coming in earlier and earlier
because I just work better in the early hours, because soon enough I'll be getting up at 2:30 again. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit of a tour of sort of what I experience when I get here, and I'll show you the state of the studio now, and then we'll have subsequent videos once we get the studio portion complete. So let's go ahead and just start off in the lobby. All right, so here we are at the front door of Center of the American Experiment, although I am not going to show you how I enter the building. Let's go ahead and go inside. So I'll go ahead and flip things around. As you can see, there's nobody here in the office currently. Again, I like to get here early. It's quiet. All right, so let's head on over to what is the studio here at Center of the American Experiment. I'm recording this on Friday, what is it, the 16th? I'm lost on days. If you follow me online, you've probably noticed I haven't been very active. The course of the past week, certainly haven't been posting much in terms of videos, because I've been here just hammering on working with the equipment, which is why I wanted to share with you exactly what we needed to go and do. So I'm standing in what is essentially the studio here. This is where the various podcasts, rationally based, the American Experiment podcast with Grace and Catherine is filmed, and we have to build out one section for the Jon Justice Show, which is what we've been working on now. So let me give you a little bit of a tour of the disarray that we're currently dealing with. All right, so this is essentially where the production, part of the production, will go and take place. And so we've got a lot of equipment strewn about currently as we are putting things together. Needless to say, Amazon is shipping a lot of cables, and a lot of long cables, so that we can get rid of this bridge of cables here. But this whole section that you see over here will be turned into the set for the Jon Justice Show. We have new backdrops coming in. We have a sign that's ordered. These bookshelves will be moved, and the intent is to go and throw these on rollers, because Rationally Based uses these, so that we can easily swap out the backdrops for this portion of the studio. So this is probably what you're most familiar with. So this is the Center of the American Experiment main set that Catherine and Grace do their podcast on. And I don't know how long they've actually been working on this particular set. It's only been a couple of months, and we plan on utilizing this for Freedom Fridays. So to give you a little bit of a perspective, this is going to be the one half of the studio used for the podcast, and then over here will be my studio portion. And what'll probably happen on Freedom Fridays is that our guests will be here, Grace and Catherine, Max and AK, and whomever else we invite. And then initially my thought was I would be over here too for Friday's show, but because of the way that we are designing the studio and the access that I need to the equipment, I'll probably have to do the show from my portion of the room, and we'll light it appropriately, and then the guests will be here on Freedom Friday. Isaac, who is the technical comms guru here at American Experiment, will handle producing the show for a while as we sort of staff up with whatever we need in terms of a crew. And again, probably the most asked question that I've been hearing or been asked is, well, what is it that you need to do? Well, because we are producing a live show, we can't just do the typical podcast setup, which is what they had been doing. So we needed to build out the necessary infrastructure to do a live show along with video, and then also podcast. And so here, I'll go ahead and turn around. So this will essentially be sort of my studio workspace. The cameras will be set up here. And we've already got another desktop computer here that will help run the studio portion of it.
leaving a talk back. Although, Isaac, you know what I didn't do? I didn't bother to write down what the phone number was to share it with everybody.
Uh-oh.
So, all right, next break we take, I'm going to have to go and track that down. Unless you want to. Well, it was your former number for crying out loud, so maybe you.
Shoot. Yeah.
No. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll find it. So, I'm calling it MixLR. I don't. Isaac, MixLR, MixLR.
I like MixLR.
I've always called it MixLR. I could be wrong. I used it years ago. But in terms of options for what we wanted to do, it was stunning how limited those options were. And we'll get into that when we want to talk about how all of this transpired. It is the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment, AmericanExperiment.org. And Hans, at the moment, I'm not checking the comments on the app. So those will be reserved for the talkbacks and the emails. I might go and look into it later on, depending on, how the show grows and what I have access to and how often people go and use that. But at the moment, I would say if you're interested in communicating with the show, jon.justice@americanexperiment.org, or as you just did, leave us a talkback. See, I said talkback. Gosh darn it.
Dang it.
Show Guru is going to get upset with me. Leave us a comment. I need a little jar every time I put anytime I say something related to me muscle. I should put something in a jar. Let's play another comment that rolled in from Scott.
Hi, John. Friend of the show, Senior here from north of the Twin Cities. Looking forward to the new show. And I got to say, these drives now are just like hot dog without beans. Thanks, bud. Can't wait.
Just like a hot dog without beans. I've never heard that before.
Isn't that how it should be?
A hot dog without beans?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily need beans for my hot dog.
No, me neither.
I'm not putting them on my hot dog.
No,
I'll put
me
them off to the side of my hot dog. But I'm not like, and then no one's handing me a hot dog, and then in no way am I going, that's great. Where the hell are the beans? I shouldn't give Scott a hard time. He did go and leave us a comment, so that is appreciated. So let me get into what happened, and I don't know what I can and can't say. I'll just tell the story. Whatever. I mean, this is the reality. This is what transpired. So, me muscle. A lot of people have wondered if I was taken off the air because of some, for lack of a better way to describe it, some grand conspiracy. Was this some sort of effort to remove conservative talk? Because the truth of the matter is, my losing that show, and the whole reason why we're doing this show, is because it left this massive void in the Twin Cities when it comes to morning conservative talk, especially live and local talk. And yeah, conservative talk, because the individual who's replaced me at Me Muscle isn't very conservative. But again, I'm going to be nice. He's had a very long career. I'm sure he's an incredibly nice guy. And I hope that he enjoys doing my former show. I am much happier now. Can I just say that? I'm so much more happier. But I don't think there was any grand conspiracy. So Me Muscle has been going through a rounds of layoffs for a number of years. And it kind of had gone in intervals like every other year. It hadn't. I feel like people have gotten, like a group of individuals have gotten let go every single year, but sometimes they're larger, sometimes they're smaller. What happened about a month ago was from what I'm told, was the largest layoff. I think in radio history, for crying out loud. So I had no idea that that there was any danger at all. The show was doing very well. If you listened, which I'm sure you did, we had a lot of sponsors, more so than that it was the most that I had since I took over the show solo in the wake of the passing of my dear friend Drew in 2022. And so I thought that, you know what? I think I'm in pretty good shape. There was a remodel going on at Me Muscle, and they were shrinking the floor. We had an entire floor. They were basically cutting the floor in half. The building would take over and bring in tenants for one half, and then they took the programming and sales department, moved them over to where a performance studio used to be, and then basically came through and remodeled the majority of the studios. And we talked about this on the other show. I had moved from the largest studio that we had, and it was completely understandable because I was just me. It was just me on that station. I was the only live talent. So they moved me into a smaller studio, which was perfectly fine, and it was brand new. I actually helped go about designing that studio. They had initially had some plans drawn up, and the engineers were going in and talking about, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this here. We're going to put this here. And I go, whoa. None of this is really conducive for what I do on a daily basis. And they were all cool. They're like, hey, listen, somebody else outside of the Twin Cities came up with these plans. So if you have, we have what we're working with. If you want us to take what we're working with and build something different, then just let us know. And they did. We had the most advanced equipment in the building. They put in a whole camera rig setup, and we were doing YouTube streaming. That was all done on my own, by the way. I wasn't given any instructions whatsoever on what to do with the camera system in studio. I had to train myself how to go and use it. Isaac has certainly done a much better job of lighting this studio. You would cringe. You should go back, Isaac, when you get a chance. You should go back and watch some of the Freedom Fridays that are posted on my YouTube page and compare, because there was like no lighting. It was basically the extent to which I lit the studio was closing the blinds so that A.K. Kamara, where he sat, didn't get washed out behind him. But even then, he looked the same color as Shogru in the shot. And then the other shots had like a yellow tint on them. It wasn't great, but it worked. It was totally worked. And I was comparing it to K-Fan because their shots didn't look any better. I'm like, well, my shots look as good as they do. So there was a memo that had gone out. I think it was on a Tuesday, and we typically would receive these corporate memos written by the big wig fuddy-duddies. It's twice I've used big wig fuddy-duddies on the show today. But there was a memo that had gone out by the big wig fuddy-duddies, and I didn't read it. Typically, I don't. Usually, they're relating to some sort of initiative like Guaranteed Human. I usually I peruse the headline and go, am I interested in any of this? My standard is, does this impact me in any way, shape, or form in my show? And I didn't. Later that day, on Tuesday, Samantha Sansevier, who works over at K102 and was a former producer and a good friend of mine, still works at K102 with Chris Carr, who I was actually texting with. I'm actually looking at a text right now from Chris. He had no idea what I was doing this morning and just reached out and said that he missed me. It's been a while. I miss you, dude. How are you? To which I responded back, I waved past you on the drive-in today. And I literally did that. I went right past I rerouted myself because I was coming in earlier hours. And it routed me past the old Me Muscle building, which I kind of almost didn't do. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go the other way. I'm like, okay, I'm not that spiteful. I moved lanes to take a turn on one of the freeways just because I'm like, man, do I really want my first day going back live at Center of the American Experiment and relaunching the show, even if it is a dry run? Do I really want to take the same route that I used to go every day? And I went, you know what? I'm going to. I'm treating it as ceremony. Closure, Isaac. That's what we're going with. It's closure. So I waved at the building as I drove on past because I'm about 10 minutes further than where I had to go where I had to go before. So Sam had texted me, and she had screenshot a portion of the email from the fuddy-duddies at Me Muscle. And in it, it was a program restructuring initiative that they were doing. This has all gone public, by the way. If you were to go and look online and you looked at the news regarding all the layoffs that had taken place, you'll see that they all referenced this. They all referenced this memo. And I only bring it up now because if the corporate bigwigs want to come after me for talking about it, they can go after everybody else that went and posted this information long before I started talking about it on my new show. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Show Guru agrees. I got to get all this out of the way now because I don't want to be doing this when the regular show starts, so I need to dispense with all of the ridiculousness. And what she screenshotted in the text was through this new, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but through this new initiative, there will be some. It was funny, and I specifically remember this. They prefaced it by saying there will be some new positions available. However, ... we will have to let go of some of our staff. And as always, it's sad to see our friends go. We appreciate the time that they've devoted to Me Muscle, and we wish them the best. So Sam had sent me this, and I was like, oh, well, that's concerning, right? That's distressing. So I went, and this was later in the day on that Tuesday. So this would have been the 23rd. This would have been June 23rd. And I did a look online because typically when these layoffs occur, you'll see the posts you'll see posts online from different media outlets saying, Me Muscle's gone through a bunch of layoffs again. And I didn't see anything at all. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's it. Okay, I would have thought that we would have seen some information regarding this, which kind of had me a little bit concerned because I was like, was the memo premature, or have they not started yet? Right. So I really, and again, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think there was going to be any issue for everything that I mentioned before. Show was going well. The numbers were where they needed to be, and all of it was great. So I get in Wednesday morning, and I went over, and typically a couple times a week I'll pop in and I'll go say hi to Chris over at K102. And I walked in and just started some small talk, and I think he jokingly went, "You're not going to bring up the memo?" And I was like, well, I was eventually going to bring up the memo. I just didn't want to be the first thing that we talk about as we begin to start our shows on a Wednesday morning. He's like, I go, I didn't see, and I told him, I said, I didn't see anybody get let go yesterday. And he goes, oh no, people did. And I go, really? He's like, oh yeah, a whole bunch of people did. And I was like, oh, I guess I looked too early. And I said, all right, well, maybe it's over. Maybe we weathered the storm once again, right? 10 years in August, I would have been at the radio station. As I'm walking out the door of the K102 studio, I turn back to him. Kid you not. I turn back to him and I go, well, Chris, you know what? If anybody shows up, if any management, really, I think I said anybody, because nobody ever came to my studio, for crying out loud. Said, if anybody shows up at my door at 9 o'clock, then I know I'm done. I was totally joking, right? So I go on, I do the show. It's a good show, by the way. I was very proud of my show, even though I didn't have Show Guru there. And I'm not even joking. So the show ended right. The show typically ended right around like 8:56-ish. Okay. And I'm not even kidding, man. The cameras were still on. Everything was still open, right? I turned the mic off. I had barely removed my headphones. And the door slowly begins to open. And in comes the general manager and the operations manager. And I'm again, this is 100% true. I started laughing. I just started laughing because I knew why they were there. I didn't know the operations manager very well at all. I never had a full conversation. Great, nice guy, but I never had a full conversation with him. He was newly put into that role. There'd been some restructuring over the course of several months, and before that, he was involved in other radio stations. So there was no real reason for me to have any interactions with him. But the general manager, I absolutely knew, and I got along, and I liked them both. And we had a really solid relationship. He had not been in that position for very long, and I could see the look of distress on his face. I actually felt bad. I felt bad for him. And I told them, so they walk in, I start laughing, and I go, okay, I got to turn some stuff off. And I'm just chuckling. Because what are you going to do? You either laugh or cry, right? You're in it now. You know, that sinking feeling has arrived. And I've had that sinking feeling before. I hadn't had that sinking feeling and been in that position for going on over 25 years. No, 20 years? 20 years. We'll give it 22 years. Right? Because I lost a bunch of gigs early in my career when I was doing music radio, through no fault of my own, by the way. Just want to say that. Again, I could spend the next, the rest of the show talking about all those other jobs that I lost. But, I'm in it now. And so I just said, listen, let me turn everything off. I'm going to start packing. And while I'm packing, you guys can go through your spiel. Completely threw them off. The operations manager, you could see, had this look of confusion on his face. I think that the general manager understood because he knew me and knew my personality more. I don't think the operations manager had listened to my show, so he really didn't know me at all to know my sense of humor or personality. So it was almost like I tripped him up because he was ready to roll into this, because this can't be easy. It's got to be hard for individuals to go and let people go. That can't be an easy thing I wouldn't want to go and do that, And it's like, and so then he starts in. It's like, well, as you know, a memo came out earlier this week, and I don't know if I did. If I did, it was probably not. I probably didn't show it. But when he made that comment, I laughed, just because that memo had been such a part of the past 36 hours. As you know, the memo came out talking about this, and I'm just like, yeah. And it basically landed on, and your services are no longer needed. Yeah. Now, thankfully, as a side note, there wasn't a lot that I had, because I've only been in that studio for like 2 months. So I had taken a lot of stuff, because the other studio had a bunch of my personal items in it. And I had taken a lot of that stuff home and really just moved over to the new studio. The stuff that I needed, and so I didn't have a lot of stuff to go and grab, and so I had, I said, hey, listen, I don't want to have to come back. Can I just gather up my stuff, and I'll see myself out? And they were cool about it. They left. I don't know. They were gone for just a few minutes, and then the HR rep, who's fantastic, really, really, real nice woman. She came in to sort of watch over me, to escort me out. She was distraught. Everybody was distraught. I had salespeople that were reaching out to me. I mean, it made me feel good about what I do. I had relationships with these individuals, but everybody was just kind of stunned. And so she walked me out, and then I was texting with some other people, and specifically with Sam and Samantha. And so I said, hey, look, I haven't left yet. If you want to come down and say goodbye, and I can see you downstairs. And so she ran downstairs, and I talked with her for a bit. My boss, Chad, wasn't there. He was out taking a couple of vacation days, and so I was downstairs in the lobby talking with Sam, and Chad called me, and so Sam went back upstairs to do the show, and I got on the phone with him, and he felt horrible, and he said he didn't even know until that morning, like he had just found out, and honestly, as I told him, and I mean it, I was glad that he wasn't there. Chad's a great dude. and easily one of the best program directors that I've ever worked for. And an aspect of working at Me Muscle that I'll miss. And so in that case, sort of looking on the bright side, and there's been nothing but bright side since all this happened. Looking on the bright side, I was glad that he wasn't there, because that would have been awful for him to have to go and do, especially because I didn't do anything. My whole, with all my jobs, the mentality I always have is, make sure I don't give my bosses anything to complain about. Do my job to the best of my ability, try to overachieve, but make sure that, the expectations are met and you don't give your bosses any reason to go and complain about you. And I felt like I really achieved that. I mean, apart from you can't be perfect, for crying out loud. My responses to certain things online often didn't make people happy, or talking about certain problems. That was a big pet peeve of Chad's, was when, if we ever dealt with any technical difficulties on the show, he didn't want me talking about it. He gets so mad at me. I completely disagreed with him, by the way. I've never done it to his face. I would now. I think just the mere fact that I talked about it on the air was enough. Because it was funny. We had a technical glitch. Oh, it was like, I actually think it was the week prior. I completely forgot about this. We had just this major technical malfunction. And as a matter of fact, Isaac, I guarantee my whole mindset, I probably would have done it either way, but in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I wanted to do these dry run shows because of what had happened that day. Because, we lost access to everything. The computer system completely shut down. I couldn't get anything on the air. I mean, it was a nightmare. So we had these huge blocks of time in this morning where the show wasn't on and we couldn't even get anything on. And with the remodel, I didn't even notice it. Typically, at a radio station, you have engineers in charge when things go wrong. But Me Muscle has slowly been working away from that, and everything is outside of the local jurisdiction. And I didn't even, this is how locked in I get on my show. In the new studio, there were QR code stickers on all the equipment. I mean, there must have been 20 stickers that I didn't even pay attention to. Every single one of them had a QR code, and every single one of them said, if you have any technical problems, go to this link. I didn't even see any of them. So when we had the problems, I'm reaching out to individuals within Me Muscle who I thought could go and handle the issue, only to be told later that those people don't, they went and helped me, but they only did it because they were being nice. Chad had to tell me later on, that's not their job anymore, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're an engineer. He's like, no, they don't do that anymore. You have to reach out to technical support. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? He's like, what do you mean, how do you do that? I go, who do I reach out to? He's like, it's all over your studio. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there, and there. I was like, oh. Yeah, I didn't see any of that. I just thought that they were like little, the stickers that come with equipment when they just put the random stickers on there. I didn't know it actually had relevant information. So knowing that Chad didn't want me to complain when we had technical problems, I didn't say anything on the air. We finally got the show back up and running. I didn't say anything on the air, but I did post online. And all that I posted on X was, hey, we're having some technical difficulties. We're trying to go and get things under control. So just, keep an eye on my feed and I'll let you know when everything's back up and running. So Chad came in, and I mean, I could count on one hand how many times Chad had any sort of issue with me in the 10 years that I was there. It's less than that. I mean, probably like 2 or 3 times. This was one of them. He came in, he goes, so, why did you feel the need to go and tell people about our technical problems? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, about the problems you had this morning. And I said, well, because people were worried. He's like, yeah, but, once you get back live, nobody knows. So there's no reason to go and bring it up. And I was like, I didn't talk about it on the air. He's like, no, but you posted it online. I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, you got to be. You got to be kidding me. So I was like, okay, fine. I won't do it ever again because I just hate confrontation. So I'm driving home, and I needed to wait to get home. I didn't want to call Melinda. I didn't want to tell her over the phone what had happened, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what the next step was going to be. I had an idea in mind of what I would do if this were to ever occur. Every single year that had gone by, the reality of losing the gig became more and more real. And I'll get into this coming up in just a moment, just past the top of the hour here on the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment, AmericanExperiment.org. I had a plan in mind about what I wanted to do. And I had even thought, there were times when I had thought about leaving terrestrial radio on my own and going and doing my own thing. But to do that, it's difficult. You need some capital behind you. You need some support, and I didn't have the money to venture out on my own. So I was hoping at the time that I could ride out the job for as long as I possibly could. And of course, that came to an end a lot quicker than I had anticipated. So with the idea that I had in mind that I'll talk about here in just a moment, I thought, okay, well, maybe there are individuals that want to partner with me to go and make this happen. And that's exactly what transpired. The first individuals that I reached out to, and I reached out to several, but the first individuals that I reached out to were the people here at Center of the American Experiment. I obviously had developed a relationship with Catherine and Grace, and knew a lot of the other individuals just in the course of the time that I had been, doing the show. And I thought, well, maybe they have an interest in partnering with me to do something. Because as I mentioned before, there was this massive void that got left in the Twin Cities for conservative news talk. And I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound braggadocious. I'm not. That wasn't by design. I didn't do that intentionally. It's just in terms of live morning talk on a weekly basis, there's nothing there. I certainly knew that as I was coming in here to build the new show, trying to find things to go and listen to, and I ended up just defaulting to talking to myself. I'm like, I'll just do a show by myself. Hey, Jon Justice, welcome to your car. What are we going to talk about today? I should have grabbed Shogru. I could have put him in the passenger seat and done a show for him. So, all right, I'll continue with the story coming up here in just a moment. We'll also dive into some news items as well. We'll take a look at the comment line. I'll dig up that phone number, by the way. I know I posted it on X. I got to go and find the post. I should have written it down. So before we do that, though, let me share with you, for those that haven't had the opportunity, here is a handful of social media clips from the American Experiment podcast out every single Tuesday, hosted by Katherine Johnson and Grace Keating. And there's been this initiative currently to highlight the difficulties that we're facing here in Minnesota right now, and a number of different data points that are crucial for individuals to know as we head into the elections later this year. Grace and Catherine have certainly been focusing on this on the podcast and in these clips as well. So give a listen to this, and we'll be back in just a moment here on the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
What's so sad to me is that nearly 60% of Minnesotans now say that our state is on the wrong track. And it has not always been like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, in 2020, the majority of Minnesotans actually thought we were on the right track. So in just, 6 short years, people's perspectives on the state have totally changed. People would be really surprised to know that Minnesota is a below average state economically.
Yeah, and that has not always been the case. And if you care about having higher wages, about having more jobs, you should care if your state is doing well economically. And for the first time in a long time, we Minnesotans need to wake up and realize how far our education system has fallen too.
Yeah, especially when you think about the fact that students in Mississippi are reading better than students in Minnesota. I mean, that's a state that people criticize like crazy and love to make fun of in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they're doing so much better than us.
That's insane. Well, and you think about, the kids that graduate in Minnesota not knowing how to read well, not being prepared for life. They're not just competing with other kids in Minnesota. They're competing at the national level for jobs, for opportunities, for a livelihood. And they're going to be behind other states like Mississippi.
Start a small business. Minnesota might be the worst state in the country to start one in.
Yeah. We literally tax small businesses more than any other state in the country. And by the way, most Minnesotans work for a small business. This impacts every single person.
Yeah, that's really crazy. You would think that we would want to encourage entrepreneurship. We would want to encourage small businesses in this state. Instead, we make it harder than literally any other state.
What's so cool to me about this presentation is that it is literally years in the making. It is the culmination of all of the work you've been doing since you came on here at American Experiment. But you trace the timeline back, 10 plus years ago even, right?
Yeah, back to 2014. We go back to the beginning of the CCAP, the child care subsidy fraud. Everybody remembers that. $100 million in suitcases going out of the airport. And that really was the first major industrial scale fraud we had in Minnesota. And a lot of the same people who were involved in the child care subsidy scandal were also then involved in the food scandal, the Feeding Our Future free food scandal. So we trace the evolution of the fraud from child care to free food. And then when the free food fraud was shut down, a lot of the same people again moved into this Medicaid fraud. And the Medicaid fraud is where the real money has been, billions of dollars.
Funny how
I
that
mentioned $9 billion stolen from taxpayers. Where did the money go? Some of it went overseas. Some of it was shipped off for real estate, apartments in Nairobi, Kenya, cryptocurrency, factories in China, just all kinds of weird stuff. A lot of luxury goods, fancy cars, expensive handbags, shoes. So we had a lot of it just spent on consumer goods and trips to Las Vegas. But then we also trace some of it back to the politicians, the people who voted for this stuff, the people who enabled the fraud to begin with. So a lot of the most prominent politicians in Minnesota, it turns out, took campaign donations from individuals who are later convicted in these frauds. So we trace the money from the taxpayer through the programs and then back to the politicians in the form of campaign donations.
And so with that, a podcast will be available. Just search for the Jon Justice Show on whatever podcast platform you happen to listen to. Subscribe to the podcast. Also, you can watch the show via YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and multiple accounts. So you can certainly watch the show on the Center of the American Experiment, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook pages, but also on my personal ones as well. The idea was, if anybody were to ask me, where can I go and listen and check out the show, I wanted the ability to say, well, you can do that anywhere. The most important component, at least to start, as we build on the video of the show, was to make sure that you could listen just as easily as you did before, but without the terrestrial radio signal. And it took some doing to make that happen. We had a comment that was going around the group that's kind of been helping with all of this. So there's a handful of us. So it's myself, Isaac, and Isaac. What's your official role here at Center of the American Experiment?
I am the. That's a good question. I don't even know off the top of my head.
Do you have a title?
Yeah, I do. But
What is your?
I'm basically the producer.
Okay.
Of any kind of show we have going on around here.
Yeah. So that's why he's here joining me now. So Isaac has certainly been a part of this and a crucial component in terms of the technical aspects of what we're doing on the show, but also directly involved has been Grace, along with Bill Walsh, as part of the communications group here at Center of the American Experiment, and Catherine Johnson as well, along with John Hinderacher and everybody who's sort of been involved behind the scenes in a number of different aspects. If you happen to be watching the video of these dry run shows, you can see the set that we've built. We do have a sign coming in. Looking forward to getting the sign. I know it's done. Hopefully, it'll be shipped in the next week or so. So, as I was mentioning in an earlier part of the show, the idea that I had were I to ever lose my job would be to venture out on my own. Spent almost a decade here building up an audience through the various iterations of the Me Muscle show, and I thought, okay, if I lost my gig, I want to be able to continue to do what I was doing, and I'll just go and do it on my own. But as I said, to do that requires, to have some capital behind you, to be able to sustain yourself while you build the audience and bring out various ways, figure out ways to bring in the revenue. And so I decided, well, you know what? I've developed these amazing relationships with people here in Minnesota, and maybe there's an opportunity for me to go and partner up. And as I mentioned, Center of the American Experiment was one of the first groups I reached out to, and I talked with several other outlets. I talked with other radio stations, and they understood the vision that I had for the show, supported that vision, and within a really short period of time, we were able to put something together and to move forward. And within a matter of less than 2 weeks, really starting from scratch, we were able to put together the show, to bring it to you live, to bring the video live. And I cannot thank everybody here at Center of the American Experiment enough for all of their all the efforts. And just a fantastic group to work for. And it's a completely different dynamic for me. Working within regular radio, especially being a conservative news talk show host, it's not a hard thing. So this isn't, woe is me. But you're not necessarily working with individuals who agree with your commentary or even agree with what you do. It's not like you're a music host where, well, I'm not a country music fan, but I understand it. No, I mean, if you're a conservative, especially now in 2026, if you're a conservative news talk show host, you're going to have, with how politicized and divided everybody is, you're going to have individuals, even within a friendly environment, who adamantly disagree with your commentary and the fact that you're even doing it on the air. So working here with Center of the American Experiment has just been it's been so refreshing to put it bluntly, and encouraging. I think it's important to make sure that you step out of your comfort zones. You don't want to get locked into any sort of bubbles in life. You want to be able to hear opposing views. We have a comment line to continue to do that, 612-584-4565. Put it on your speed dial. Do we still do speed dial, Isaac? Is that even still a thing?
No.
I didn't think so. I think I really aged. I had a birthday over the course of the past month. But I think I aged myself with that one. You don't do speed dial anymore. Lock it in your phone. Do it there. We used to do the whole Me Muscle thing of set your Set your presets, right? Set your phone preset if you can actually do that. 612-584-4565. You can leave just like we did before, a 30-second message, and we'll share those back on the show. That whole, by the way, this is why I was just telling Isaac as we were playing some of the clips from the American Experiment podcast. I was just telling Isaac that again, I had a number of different reasons why I wanted to do these dry run shows. The biggest one, though, was so that I could get all of this out of my system, because I didn't want to go on with everybody knowing how to listen after the announcement on Saturday at the America 250 block party. I didn't want to go on the air on Monday and then be in the position that I am now, where we're about an hour, and 15 minutes into the show, and I've got into no material whatsoever. So I figured, let me just clear the air. So that way on Monday, when I go and do the show, I can say, hey, if you want to know the backstory of everything that happened, go listen to the podcast or go watch the YouTube video on the American Experiment YouTube page or on the Jon Justice YouTube page. You can go and find it there. So, we were able to go and put this together, and we were testing right up until the last minute. If you're watching the video, the panels behind us, you guys just wrapped this up yesterday. I hadn't even seen the completed set until I got in this morning at right around 4:40, which I wonder if, Isaac, in my relatively short period of time here, if I've broken the record for being earliest through the doors of American Experiment since they've been open, since I arrived here at 4:40.
It would not surprise me.
Wonder if I can,
it was certainly the earliest I've ever gotten here.
If I can grab onto that title. I want a plaque for the office that I don't have. I want a plaque.
We can make that happen.
I don't need an office, by the way. Although there is a lot. We really have built this whole thing up. It was funny because you guys weren't going to go all the way. You almost went all the way to the roof.
Yeah.
You were only going to go. You can't see it here, but initially we were just going to put the new tiles up which are all textured and really cool. And we got the lights and all that. I know this is great for the podcast listeners, but why did you guys decide to go higher? Did you get into a rhythm or something?
Yeah, we thought it looked nice.
Okay.
We got to keep, not just the aesthetic for the viewer, but for us around here too. The
wholesale change in working in radio, and this is not just with me, Muscle. Okay, this is with all of my radio career, but the dramatic difference between being told over and over again, oh no, you can't have that. Oh no, we can't do that. I mean, we could look into it, but that's going to be really hard. Two, what's happened here is, yeah, we can do that. Sure, what do you need? Just tell us. I was going to you guys saying, if you guys have other options, we don't need to. No, we'll do it. We'll take care of it. It's fine. It's just been so eye-opening. You know what, though? Everything happens for a reason, because, you come into an environment like this and what I'm doing with this open attitude and this willingness to go and make everything the best that it could possibly be. I mean, you could really go and take advantage of a company like this. I'm very, it's one of those moments where I'm like, I'm so thankful that I've been through what I've been through, because there's a synergy that's really taken place since I started here. So I reached out to them. I'd been talking to other people, and it was clear that Center of the American Experiment, again, embraced the vision of what I had and the ability to go and get it done. And so here we are, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. You can listen to the show, again, live if you go to the AmericanExperiment.org website or download the MixLR app. And you can listen to it there as well. And then, like I said, you can watch the show live on multiple platforms, and email me, Justice, Jon.Justice, and that's Jon, Jon.Justice at AmericanExperiment.org. Let's get into some of the news, because I do have a stack here. I have done some notes, and I do want to dive into some material. And again, work through a couple of different stories that will be really outdated by the time I get to Monday's show. But I certainly wanted to cover, because just a lot has transpired over the course of the past past month. And then I do want to go and talk a bit about my travels with my son, Kyle, because it relates to not only the events that took place on Saturday with the America 250 block party at the Capitol, but also some news items as well. So this was released this morning on Thursday. The U.S. military did conduct its 12th night of strikes against Iran, targeting military assets and infrastructure to degrade Iran's ability to threaten the civilian mariners and commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has responded by targeting energy infrastructure, desalinization plants, and escalating tensions, threatening global economic disruption. Despite diplomatic efforts, both sides remain entrenched in the disputes, with Iran asserting its right to manage the strait and the U.S. vowing to protect the shipping lanes. And again, that's the summary courtesy of our AI overlords on this show that is not guaranteed human. It's stunning to me how quickly the media has gotten bored with the war. I have a story here that was actually in my stack for the show that would have taken place had I not been laid off the day before. Navy SEAL turned a senator has grim prediction about Iran's endgame. This is a murderous regime that doesn't want a deal. They want you and your family and all of us to be killed. And it's interesting to me to look back on statements like this, because rarely does anybody ever go and do this. I think I've made this analogy before, but within pop culture, and I do pop culture podcasts, my Star Wars podcast, which I haven't done in a while just because I've been obviously focused on this. But there's always speculation about when trailers come out and what the new stories are going to be, and a lot of comments around leaks. Rarely does anybody ever go back to that previous commentary and speculation to go and track just how off everybody was in their commentary. So it's interesting that I've been sort of provided this opportunity with these stories to do just that, because, again, this goes back to about a month ago. Senator Tim Sheehy, mincing no words when weighing in on Trump and the administration's ongoing negotiations with Iran. He was talking with Fox News that week and delivered a scorching message about Tehran's regime without diplomatic fluff. Sheehy, who fought in both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, isn't buying the mullah's charm offensive for a single second. He declared flatly, this is a murderous regime that doesn't want a deal. They don't want $6 gas. They don't want $6 gasoline. They don't want the straits to be open. They want you and your family and all of us to be killed. Sheehy's assessment was clear. Iran isn't negotiating, it's stalling. It's using a classic rope-a-dope designed to run out the clock on Trump's presidency. Sheehy warned at the time, they want to buy time. They want to buy as much time as they can because President Trump's the only president who's ever actually gone after them head to head. And that's not to say that this whole situation regarding Iran has been flawless. It obviously hasn't. I think there's a commentary and a thought from a lot of people, and I've heard this echoed in my household. You know, why don't we just go in and end it already? Why don't we just go in and take them all out? Well, it's not that easy. You've got a country and a regime that has built up an infrastructure solely on conducting acts of war, either through their own personal efforts or through proxy groups, as led by the NRGC. And on top of that, you have this desire, and it is a lofty desire, and it's the correct one, to make sure that if there is regime change is taking place within Iran, and that they want to allow the people to rise up and take back their country, but they just have not been able to do that. And you cannot decimate the infrastructure and therefore the regime without decimating the infrastructure, which ultimately goes and hurts the people of Iran. So Trump has been doing everything that he can in tackling this issue and may have made a mistake in the beginning of not framing further how protracted all of this could end up becoming. I know a lot of people get sick and tired of hearing, Trump say, we have a deal. They move forward the deal, and Iran breaks the deal. But there's really no way to get around that. Now, you can stop saying there's a deal until there's a deal, but they believe they have a deal. So they're doing the right thing and letting the public know. But the public needs to be aware that Iran has no interest in a deal, as Sheehy was laying out in these comments that he made to Fox News a month ago. The senator also torched the idea of Qatar. Do you say Qatar or Qatar? Do you care at all, Isaac?
Qatar.
You say Qatar. You say Qatar.
I say Qatar.
You're saying that with a level of authority.
I that's because I have it.
Okay, so is there a place you can point to that authority, or it's just you
No.
just say you are
Just
staunchly in the Qatar camp?
100%.
You know, and I'm just going to go with Qatar then.
Love that.
Okay, thank you. And Pakistan. I think you can only really say that the one way. You
Yeah,
can say-
probably.
You can say Pakistan, but that doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does that, nor should they. Serving as a neutral middleman in any deal. Qatar's. Am I saying that right? Qatar. Yeah, Qatar. Qatar's been laundering money for terrorist organizations for decades, he said bluntly. The Pakistanis, through the ISI, funded insurgencies against us and hid bin Laden. He asserted that America's real allies remain Israel, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, full stop. When you look at who's been on our side through thick and thin, no matter what, throughout the region for decades, it's been Israel, the UAE, and, of course, Saudi Arabia. Sheehy also pushed back on those who worried about long-term foreign entanglements. What's worse than a forever war in the Middle East is a forever war right here on our streets, just down the road. 9/11. He's been consistent on this for months, and back in January, Sheehy compared the Iranian regime to taking out a hobo on LSD with a knife in the street. I did not have hobo on LSD on this morning's Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment, on my bingo card. A hobo on LSD. Is that a happy hobo, or probably just a confused hobo? Does anybody even use hobo anymore? Are there hobos in Qatar? Hobo conjures up that images that I had that more relevant to me, less relevant to Isaac, of the guy walking the streets. He's got a stick, and then he's got the red and white checkered, I don't know, what do you...
It's like a bandana.
Bandana, there you
Yeah,
go,
yeah, yeah.
with the stuff in it, right? And he's carrying it. That's what, when I see hobo, that's the image that I have in my mind. He called on the U.S. to help Iran's own people take out the trash. And again, it's interesting that this was a few weeks back, and in the interim, since these words from Sheehy, Trump has gone and renewed the efforts against Iran. I remember during the Iraq War and how there was a lot of coverage for a long period of time when it came to another way to phrase this, and probably a more succinct way to phrase this, is the media held an interest in the war in Iraq for much, much longer. And I find it incredibly indicative of the times and the news cycle of how quickly now the media has gotten bored with the war in Iran. I mean, we have been conducting, again, as of last night, it was the 12th night of our armed forces, our brave men and women going in and trying to cripple the infrastructure of the Iranian regime. President Donald Trump warned earlier yesterday that the U.S. will destroy one bridge or power plant each time Iran shoots at a ship in the strait. And my understanding of this, because again, that commentary that people have had has been, well, why is he waiting? Destroy the bridges, destroy the power plants. Well, that again ends up hurting the good people of Iran that were ultimately trying to go and help themselves to liberate themselves. And so the attempt here would be to destroy the bridge or a power plant to put the Iranian regime in a position where they want to negotiate so we can get what we want, to make sure that they can't continue to wage their war efforts while minimizing the damage to the people of Iran. You destroy bridges, you weaken power plants, and you're going to put internal pressure on Iran, but there's a balancing act here, because you can destroy all this stuff. The Iranian people, rise up and take back their country, but then what are they left with? And we need to leave them with something, because I think we can all agree, for the most part, we don't want to get involved in nation building with any of this. So this is the balancing act. And I am in support of the efforts in the balancing act. You know, and the administration officials, they go out and articulate this, but going back to what I mentioned before and the time that I had to sort of disengage from everything, I was really stunned at how easy it was when you finally disengage to be completely removed from the news. Because I assumed wrongly, I assumed that, okay, I don't have a job right now. I'm working on a new gig. I knew on my vacation that I had secured the future of the Jon Justice Show and subsequently the future of my family, being able to continue to support them as a father and a husband. So, which was a blessing beyond measure, especially when you consider the number of individuals that Me Muscle let go. I mean, that it was, again, the largest layoffs in radio history. And most individuals were not as blessed as I was. So I really was grateful that during this time that I had on the road for 10 days with Kyle, where we literally burned the wheels off of Monty, my Kia Stinger, that I was able to disengage from the news for a while. But as I thought, well, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to listen to any conservative talk. I'm not going to listen to the news. But I bet that I'll just catch things, right, as I'm going about my daily business. I'm sure that I'll tune in. Maybe when we get to a hotel, I'll turn on Fox News. I didn't. And you know what? It was really, really easy to not be locked in or engaged in anything that was going on. And so I say all that again to underscore what's happening with this administration, how the left has been able to spin the efforts, how the media has gotten bored. Because once I re-engaged, I was shocked that we continued to go and drop bombs and put our armed forces in harm's way, and we've lost some lives tragically, and prayers go out to those individuals who've given the ultimate sacrifice. But to the average individual who's not paying attention to what's going on, they may not even be aware of what's happening now. Which is funny because in the story, and the reason I bring it up, it says the unpopular war threatens further worldwide economic disruption and higher fuel prices ahead of the U.S. midterms elections this fall. Now, that's certainly relevant to people who are paying attention. I'm not talking about the broken and brainwashed. It doesn't matter. They're just against anything that Trump does. They're not willing to go and look or listen to any of the commentary that I'm sharing with you on this show. No, these are the individuals that are engaged, that have been anticipating to listen to the show again. But I chuckled at the unpopular war reference, because is there a popular war beyond ones that have star before it?
I don't think so.
I mean, you could be like, I'm pro the efforts of what we're doing in Iran, but I wouldn't say that I'm sitting back going, yay, we're at war with Iran. Yay, I suppose there are people that are like that, but for the most part, that's not normal behavior. And again, if you want to talk about popular wars, maybe not so much anymore, those Star Wars typically can be. So, shout out to Shogru over here. He's like I mentioned, if you didn't catch it earlier, he's the brother of Grogu, but he's Shogru. Yeah. It's a very happy fellow. Any aggression against Iran, including our infrastructure, will compel a powerful and decisive response. This is what Trump posted yesterday on X. With negotiations largely stalled, both sides have sought to leverage by targeting civilian infrastructure. Iran has responded to U.S. attacks by targeting energy infrastructure, desalination plants that provide drinking water in parched neighboring Gulf countries. And again, as you're listening to this via the podcast or watching the video, we're recording this on Thursday, so anything's possible and could happen between now and then. But my sense is that these ongoing military strikes are going to continue, and hopefully one of these days, one of these strikes is going to do enough to actually legitimately bring the issue to a head for that leadership in Iran, or we just break them to the point where the people of Iran are able to go and rise up and to take back their country, which has been the goal all along. All right, coming up in just a moment, I do want to talk a little bit about my road trip because I think we've all known about the America 250 celebrations, right? The 4th of July just went by. And I was wondering, too, because it's coming up, again, thinking of when you're listening to this, the America 250 block party at the state capitol on Saturday. Living here in Minnesota, like America 250, you wouldn't even know, kind of going back to my previous commentary, you wouldn't even really know that it was taking place unless you were, listening to the news outlets. My point is, when you're out in the wild, you're not seeing anything relating to America 250. When I went and got on the road with my son Kyle, it was everywhere. I was, at first I thought it was an anomaly, and then I realized, oh, this is not an anomaly. The rest of the country is all in on this America 250 celebration. I mean, and I was as well, don't misunderstand, but in terms of any sort of visual indication here in Minnesota, it's been completely absent. To the point where I was watching the 4th of July celebrations, which were spectacular at my mom's house in Arizona. Her home is actually positioned in a place in Chino Valley, which is just outside of Prescott, where she's kind of on an incline. She's not on a mountain, but just because of the geography, you can see out over all of Prescott. And we were able to watch multiple fireworks shows going off underneath the stars of the desert there in Arizona. It was really, really amazing. But it had me wondering, I know we're doing the America 250 block party, but are there other celebrations going on for the remainder of the year, or is the 4th of July sort of the end of it? And that's not the case at all. As I discovered being outside the state of Minnesota on my road trip. So I want to share with you some details about that. Plus, I want to get into some of the recent stories. I got a couple here from Alpha News. An update on the idiot who went and keyed the Tesla. He's making more money than he did before. The double standard on full display. Minnesota's most famous DFL, Nicole Mitchell, is back in the news. She's plotting a comeback. I'll give you details on that. And we will talk about the issue. On July 1st, the news broke that a 3-person panel containing Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison had pardoned a man who'd been convicted of repeatedly raping a 10-year-old girl, apparently to help him avoid deportation and remain in Minnesota. On July 10th, it was announced that the federal government had deported the man, in which Governor Tim Walz ended up doubling down on his desire to pardon him. I want to get into that story and share my thoughts with you as well. And again, make sure that you lock it into your phone. We have a new comment line, 612-584-4565, 612-584-4565, and you can email me, jon.justice@americanexperiment.org. I want to share with you now, if you don't follow me on social media, here is a handful of commentary posted over the course of the past month on various social media platforms, and you can find me, Jon, Jon, Justice. Here, you'll hear about some of the latest regarding the paid family medical leave, and I have some stories to share with you on the next podcast, which would be Friday's show. Also, commentary regarding Elon Musk and the controversy after he became a trillionaire. So enjoy this short compilation of some of my social media commentary, and we'll be back in just a moment here on the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. Paid family medical leave here in Minnesota is about to start costing you and me and our employers more money. For the uninitiated, the Democrats passed paid family medical leave a number of years ago when they had the trifecta. It is a redistribution of wealth plan where an individual can simply make up an excuse for
for taking 20 paid weeks off from work, and your employer can do nothing about it. As a matter of fact, again, they have to pay into it, and I have to pay into it, and you have to pay into it. Even if we never go and take that time off, I certainly would never do that. I would never impose that type of burden on my employer, but unfortunately, a lot of people are. Now, here's the kicker. The state of Minnesota had been public about the enrollment numbers up until about April. In fact, the end of April. John Phelan at Center of the American Experiment pointed out that they've stopped reporting the employment numbers, which is distressing because, as Jon Phelan from Center of the American Experiment and AmericanExperiment.org pointed out, if the trend continued of the number of individuals who were taking that time off through paid family medical leave, it was already running at 32% above forecast, which means that that money is going to run out. You see, I'm paying into it and you're paying into it, but a lot of us aren't taking that time off. But so many people are taking that time off that 0.88% payroll tax split between me and my employer and you and your employer, it's not going to be enough to cover the number of individuals who are taking time off, which means that they're going to probably end up having to increase that payroll tax, which means that you and me and our employers are going to have to pay even more money out of our hard-earned paychecks so that other individuals can lie and take a whole bunch of time off because they're lazy and they're taking advantage of the program. And this is what the Democrats wanted all along, a redistribution of wealth. It's disgusting, and I'll be talking about it, and I want to hear from you. Democrats like you're about to watch will decide the future of the country if the people they vote for ever get power again. Just when I think the leftists can't get any more ridiculous, I see a video like this. Watch.
This is a message for all my fellow liberal white people with disposable income. If you're upset about Elon Musk becoming a billionaire, like, valid, I am too, it's horrifying. But like, let's reflect on a low level what we can do. If you're sitting on money more than you need to cough it up. You need to give your money away. It is really hard to shift that mindset. I know that it's tempting to be like, I worked hard for this. This is mine, but you didn't. Like, you might have worked hard a little bit, but that was also compounded with luck and white privilege, maybe some generational wealth from that white privilege. Like, just give away your money. It takes a constant mindset shift, but you can do it. And if you need ideas of where to donate, let me know. We were all like, we have white privilege in 2020. That's a card. We were all like, we have white privilege, and we're gonna do something about it. And now we're like all hoarding our money. We need to give it away.
That woman is the exact reason about how communists rise to power, how socialism ends up taking hold. Because the party that she supports has convinced her through their propaganda that, hey, if you only give us your money, if you give us your money and give all the money to the candidates, we'll go ahead and make up for it. We'll support your mediocre lifestyle, and we'll keep you safe from those evil Republicans. That's what that's about. They'll tax him to the teeth, and she will gladly be taxed to the teeth, while social services, which the country can't afford, taken from wealthier individuals who worked hard for that money, as the wealth is redistributed, will go and support her mediocre lifestyle. She'll never be able to achieve. Her daughter will be going to government schools and government-funded colleges, while she lives a really incredibly mediocre lifestyle with no opportunity for upward mobility because the government is taking all of their money while they provide them a bunch of free social services that keep them beholden to voting for Democrats. It's kind of terrifying. Check out my weekly radio.
American Experiment. Again, the phone number, if you want to leave a comment as the show goes live on Monday. Starting at 6 a.m., you'll be able to, because again, you'll be watching or listening to the podcast, as this will be posted after the announcement is made on Saturday at the America 250 block party. You can listen via the AmericanExperiment.org website, and also you can go and download the MixLR, MixLR. It's free. Head on into your app store. You got rid of the Me Muscle app. Right? You got rid of that app. I know a lot of people did because they told me on X. You got rid of the Me Muscle app, so replace it with the MixLR app. We have our own account there, and you can find the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment right there on the MixLR app.
Hey, Eric from Tennessee. Really glad this is back in operation. Looking forward to the show announcement on Saturday.
Yeah, me too. I am. I'm really looking forward to the event. I've been given a very, well, again, retrospectively, I was given a very specific time frame, of which I was pleased about that, because I didn't know. Because you never know what the expectation is. I'm not saying that I'm one that's gone and looked up average length of time for speeches, especially when you're closing out an event. Totally have. But Jill here at American Experiment gave me a very specific window of which to work from. So this will be fun. So by the time you're listening to this, right? By the time you're listening to the podcast or watching the video on either the American Experiment YouTube page or on my personal YouTube page, that event will have been done. I will have made the announcement that you are already aware of because you found the podcast and are here. So here's my question. I have two different versions on this, and I'll default to Isaac, since he's you get to play the role of all the audience this morning.
Man of the people.
Although the lights are on outside, so other people have arrived. So I wonder if I know Grace is usually here early, so maybe we can drag her in here and get her on a mic. So here was my thought of what I was going to do for the speech. So I have a speech, the meat of the speech, but I basically created a bun. Keeping with the food theme, right? I basically created a bun. So my thought was, there's going to be people there because we've been hyping up that I'm making an announcement about the future of the show. So my thought was, I didn't want to make everybody wait, but I didn't want to give them everything, because the last thing I wanted was, hey, here's what's going on. You can listen Monday. Here's all the ways. And then everybody goes and leaves.
You wanted to withhold the beans from the hot dogs.
Yes. See, I knew we were going to get along. Isaac's the whole reason why I decided to work here. So my thought was that I would sort of do the partial announcement of, hey, not going to make you wait. It's the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment. It starts on Monday, and I'll give you details about how you can listen. But first, here are my comments. And then I do the speech. And then at the end, the underside of the bun, of which there's just a smattering of ketchup. I would give them all the details, as opposed to doing the speech and then making the announcement. What do you think?
I like that. I like that a lot. Give the people what they want early. You know, people are kind of clamoring for this.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
for your guys' sake, or else you made a big mistake. You'll be in big trouble if that's the case. Let's go back to the comment line, 612-584-4565. Ken's left us a comment.
Hi, this is Darlene, Ken, and Ann, and we're just wondering what happened to your morning show. We missed your show, and wondering if you're going to have a new one. Thank you so much.
Well, you're actually on that new one now. There was more. So the way that we're replicating what I did on Me Muscle. And by the way, my wife, Melinda, has been, because she's actually listening to the live stream. There's a handful of people that have the live stream and are able to listen. She hasn't commented on this yet. I'm sensing that the Me Muscle description of my former job is probably driving her nuts. My guess is she's probably not the biggest fan of that. And it's probably twofold. It's probably like, stop talking about your former employer. But also, potentially, The fact that I keep calling it me muscle. Now it just makes me laugh. She's probably a fan, though, of Showgrew. I think Showgrew is awesome. Showgrew's, I may have to, that may be, out of everything and all of this, that may be the biggest takeaway and the claim to fame and my biggest accomplishment so far, apart from only being off the air a month, is coming up with Showgrew instead of Grogu. We need to get him an American Experiment shirt with Showgrew on it. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. My wife did text me, though, and say hot dog and beans is a euphemism for male parts, ? Yeah, I don't think that's what they were referring to.
I hope not.
Frank and Beans. It's an Austin Powers thing. Familiar? You've watched Austin Powers?
Nope.
No, okay, yeah. How old are you? Do you mind me saying?
26.
Okay, so that explains a lot. So there's going to be a reference. There's absolutely going to be there's going to be a gap in the references. So let me put it this way: if I asked you who is Austin Powers, could you answer that question?
No.
Wow. Okay,
No clue.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I've learned a lot, especially working with Catherine and Grace, because I've ran across that. One, Catherine's not into pop culture that much, and two, I think Grace is younger than you are, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, when it comes to the pop culture references, I do want to talk about my road trip. But since we are on food, I did grab this story. I had moved it to the bottom of the stack, but since we were on food, we'll go ahead and cover it. This is from Fox News. Burger King. So first off, let's go here. You know Burger King. Do you read at all? Do you frequent Burger King?
I love Burger King.
You do love Burger King.
Yeah, hot take. I love Burger King.
Interesting. You're the only one.
Apparently.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
I said it was a hot take.
It is a hot take. Is that your go-to? Like if you're gonna get I'm gonna get a fast food burger, I'm going to Burger King.
It's kind of like with you and ketchup and mustard. Like it depends on the mood.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm like Burger King. Sometimes I'm McDonald's. You know.
See, I would have thought. See, typically with that type of comparison, usually, like I guess, and I maybe not say usually. I'll say for me, okay, it would be like, what kind of burger do I want? Do I want a Five Guys, right? Which is a little bit more gourmet, right? Do I want to go full gourmet and go to like there's a roadside grill that's right outside the neighborhood of our house. They make really good food. I'm not going back there anytime soon. I ended up dropping like $5 for fries, and it was the worst container. And it was like I paid $5 for this. It's ridiculous. Culver's, and then you kind of go down to like McDonald's.
That's a fair point,
right? You see what it is. There's like
Culver's is kind of on a tier of its own,
like a progression here. Burger King's really down on my list. Like I'm probably like if we're doing just straight fast food burgers, I'm probably going to go McDonald's for ease. Well, no, I got to back up. Sorry, my bad. Apologies. So, Carl's Jr. Double Western Bacon Cheeseburger. I still regret not getting one on the road, but we were out west, so we were at In-N-Out, and I think my son Kyle had In-N-Out. Oh, I forgot Melinda's listening. Gosh darn it. And I just opened up a can of worms. I think he had In-N-Out at least 6 times.
Oh, that's totally fair.
Maybe 7. Maybe I had it.
Now we're getting into the Gen Z references where you just said 6, 7.
I did, 6, 7.
Oh man,
yeah. The whole trip he was doing this. By the way, it has not run its course, at least with my 19-year-old. So usually we're gonna go like Hardee's, Carl's Jr., and then like a double quarter pounder with cheese at McDonald's, and then I'll probably do Wendy's. Burger King's way down here. Okay. I bring all this up because I have a Burger King story. So this is really relevant to you. Maybe you'll be pleased about this. Burger King is implementing 2 new initiatives based on consumer feedback or customer feedback. Qatar or Qatar. The Doing That Thing With My Fingers Your Way campaign. A new restaurant manager role focused on the customer experience, and the Whopper guarantee, promising a free Whopper if the first one doesn't meet expectations. While some customers praised the changes, others expressed concerns about employee treatment and compensation. So I guess the first question I have, as the resident Burger King connoisseur, have you had any issues lately? Were there any concerns for you regarding?
I haven't, but the speed of which they serve you is one to be concerned about, though.
Yeah?
It's a little slow.
Okay.
But maybe that's because they're trying to get it right, because they don't want to redo it.
Burger King says thousands of customer comments inspired a revamped manager position and a new Whopper guarantee. This is designed to improve service, boost order accuracy, and address quality concerns. Visitors to Burger King may soon notice several changes inspired by the updates that customers of the fast food chain said they wanted. Earlier this year, we opened our phone lines and invited people to share their honest feedback, and they did. One of the biggest takeaways was that our guests want to feel welcomed when they walk in and know that their order will be made the way that they asked, and have the confidence that if something isn't right, we'll make it right. Everybody should do that. That should just be a given.
It's kind of like the human guarantee thing.
It is. Or guaranteed human.
Guaranteed
I
human.
don't really
You know,
care
same
either.
thing.
Yeah, you got it. You're on it.
Yeah.
Burger King said the initiative generated thousands of customer or consumer. No, it's customer. Customer phone calls and text messages. 4 months later, the company is introducing two strategies aimed at improving customer service and order accuracy. The Your Way campaign is a reimagined restaurant manager role designed to empower restaurant leaders and to put the guest experience first, Burger King announced in the news release. The champion will wear a dedicated uniform and serve as a point person for customers, overseeing order customization and satisfaction. Just make them the Burger King.
Did you hear they fired the king, the mascot?
No.
They fired the king.
So they're not using the
They're not using that
That
anymore.
was always weird.
Because you're king now at Burger King. They said you.
Oh, is that
you
what
are
it
the
is?
King.
Oh.
So the king got axed.
Okay. So this would explain why they didn't do what I think they should do. Because if you're going to have this manager role, I thought just make them the Burger King.
Make them the king.
Okay.
Yeah. No kings.
Okay. No kings. Of course. No, now I want to eat there even less. The Whopper guarantee promises that if a Whopper, Burger King's signature hamburger, doesn't meet customer expectations, the brand will not only continue to remake it on the spot, but they'll offer the guest the next Whopper free of charge, redeemable with a QR code. QR codes make an appearance once again on the show. This is about bringing the have it your way to life in every restaurant every day, Burger King told Fox News. I had been told that I don't know if this is based on any sort of fact whatsoever, but I have been told that the reason why In-N-Out hadn't expanded was because of the quality control regarding, just how when you it runs like a military operation when you go in. You've had it in?
I have.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah. It just doesn't. There's no like rhyme or reason to it. Like it doesn't. It doesn't deserve to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shouldn't be that good for just a simple menu. But it's fantastic. It's great. They're probably putting some drugs in it we're completely not aware of, right? I swear, my boys when they go. I mean, Logan. So Logan's a pilot. He's a private pilot. Loves flying on. He's actually at the Oshkosh Air Festival right now as we speak, filming planes. He's taken trips to just go get In-N-Out. He flew to Vegas, got off the plane, got In-N-Out, didn't go anywhere else, got back on the plane and flew home.
That's awesome.
I'm telling you, they're putting something.
Tell them to bring me one next
in
time.
there. I know. Well, we usually do that too. Usually we'll go when people go and travel, they'll buy extra ones, and then we have this whole process of wrapping them up and freezing them and bringing them home. I didn't this time. And it's probably a good thing because the whole trip in and of itself was a fantastic trip, but not without its trials and tribulations. Speaking of trips, by the way, and driving, a Minnesota State employee, Dylan Adams, and a story here from Alpha News, who caused at least $20,000 in damage by keying multiple Teslas around Minneapolis last year, has now been promoted to a supervisor position and given a raise. Yes, that's speaking of this. That doesn't surprise me in the least bit. The Minnesota Department of Human Services, DHS, confirmed to Alpha News that Adams is in a temporary assignment as the supervisor of a Disability Services Division's fiscal policy team. Adams started the position last month, and Alpha News has learned that as part of the promotion, Adams received a $3.58 an hour pay raise as his compensation rate went from $48.60 an hour to $52. That means he's likely now making a six-figure salary paid for by tax dollars. He received a one-day suspension for the vandalism that took place in March of 2025. He admitted to keying multiple Teslas around Minneapolis and said that he was on a break or out sick during some of the incidents. Alpha News obtained the records that showed Adams was logged as working during at least some of those daytime incidents. At the time, Adams was first employed by a fiscal policy analyst at DHS and was the compliance lead on DHS's program integrity team before his promotion. According to the DHS report on the matter, Adams shared Governor Tim Walz's disdain for Elon Musk. Adams told investigators he vandalized the Teslas because he believed that Musk gave a Nazi salute during the presidential Trump's inauguration ceremony. He said he also hoped damaging the vehicles would prompt Tesla owners to disassociate themselves from the company and its CEO, according to the report. What's most interesting to me about this story that, I certainly have covered at length in the past, it's not so much the double standard that's taking place here, and this isn't necessarily a surprise, but it's the precursor that this story displays as it relates to other more egregious crimes and the lack of accountability that the left supports relating to those individuals. You've got DFL former Senator Nicole Mitchell planning a political comeback. She's campaigning apparently now to be on the Woodbury City Council. And then we'll get into the pardoning of a pedophile, a child rapist. All of which, and especially with the Tulu Vang pardon, all of this really makes this whole keying the Tesla story look benign by comparison. But think about the mentality of an individual who would go and do something like that. And yet it's not something that is criticized. It's applauded and it's championed, and he actually ends up making even more money than he did before in the wake of what he did of going and irrationally vandalizing vehicles. In the real world, where there's actual consequences and you're not working for a leftist government regime, for lack of a better way to describe it, this individual would have an incredibly difficult time finding a job, probably would have to go and work for Burger King or an even lesser fast food chain. No offense to the Burger Kings and the No Kings, but since they're going No Kings, I'm going to point to them for just a moment. And of course, with that, as I mentioned, you do have the double standard at play in all of this as well. All right, coming up in just a moment as we head into hour 3 on this dry run Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment. I do want to talk a bit about Nicole Mitchell planning this political comeback as she's running for city council, and then we will get into the latest information regarding the pardoning and subsequent deportation of Tulu Vang. Prosecutors actually opposed the pardon, and they revealed the victim was pressured by family to not go and cooperate. So I'll give you details on that coming up in just a moment. Remember, if you want to email me, jon.justice@americanexperiment.org. And you can now take advantage of the new comment line, 612-584-4565. I want to get you up to speed on more commentary from the American Experiment podcast, which you can hear every Tuesday, hosted by Katherine Johnson and Grace Keating here on the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
The legislature passed a new social media warning law that requires social media companies to display a mental health warning label to users on their sites. The label's text must warn the user of potential mental health impacts from using social media and provide additional potential mental health resources, including the National Suicide Hotline number and website. So the law also bars platforms from allowing a user to disable the warning label or like provide it in the terms and conditions, basically do anything so that it's not super higher rate. The Trump administration has actually sued Minnesota in order to get them to hand over their SNAP records from the last 5 years. Minnesota has refused to share this information voluntarily, so the administration took them and some other states to court. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said it's pursuing the data to check for fraud and waste and is seeking the program's eligibility and benefit transaction records. As Attorney General Todd Blanche said in a statement, the American people deserve a government that is transparent about how it spends their hard-earned tax dollars.
We wanted to start off this week's episode with a little update from something we talked about last week, which was, of course, the Minneapolis bathhouse situation, which it sounds like are now legal in the great city of Minneapolis, right, Catherine?
Woohoo! It was legalized, fully legalized, signed off by Mayor Jacob Fry on Pride weekend. We even have a clip of it to show you guys. Go ahead, Isaac.
This is the bathhouse ordinance. Everybody ready?
And that's City Hall, by the way. That's Minneapolis City Hall. People are struggling to get by, especially in our middle-class families across the state. You would think the city council would be doing something about this, right? Well, sort of. Here's what they are doing. They entered into a $1.4 million contract with a firm to provide coaching and counseling between council members and Mayor Fry's office.
Oh, boy.
For executive coaching and mediation to improve teamwork. The city council is also continuing to reduce main roadways like Hennepin Avenue to 1 lane in each direction and eliminating parking to enhance bike and mass transit access.
That should be great for businesses, right?
Yeah,
that should
really
be great for economic activity.
They opposed ordinances on enforcement of livability issues such as loitering, begging, spitting on sidewalks, possessing drug paraphernalia, and what they call urban camping.
Wait, so they stopped people from passing rules against those things?
Like ordinances on enforcement of livability issues such as loitering, begging, spitting on sidewalks, possessing drug paraphernalia, and what they call urban camping.
Wait, so they stopped people from passing rules against those things?
Correct.
Like they're pro-loitering.
They're
pro-drug paraphernalia.
Homeless encampment. I'm not kidding.
Again, great for economic activity. This is really going to make Minneapolis like a thriving hub that people with children want to visit and spend their money at.
Last but not least, they hosted the first ever transgender drag show in Minneapolis City Hall to honor Pride Month in 2026.
Thank goodness.
Here when you talk about fewer regulations on childcare centers is people worry about safety because there are issues with safety in childcare centers. It's not frequent at all, but it always hits the news when there's an incident that happens, and it's sad, it's awful, it breaks your heart, So if we were to reduce regulations, would that make childcare centers less safe, or how do you balance those two needs?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of that fear really goes down to what is happening, in that center when the parents leave their children. What some of the studies found, though, was that a lot of the places where those kinds of incidents happened were providers that weren't following the rules that were on the book. So you didn't necessarily need new rules. You just needed to make sure that the rules that you have on the book are being followed by all of the providers.
and we can't wait to hear your voice on the radio again. Thank you.
And I should probably, I guess, apologize for just a moment that I haven't brought this up yet. But in the wake of my being let go from Me Muscle, I've never had a listener response in the way that you did in learning of what had happened. So thank you so much to everybody who reached out. I think the only thing that I could possibly go and compare that to would be when I went through that last open heart surgery and Drew had passed away. But there was just an overwhelming level of support from you. And I did my best to respond to everybody, and will do my best that once we will have made the announcement on Saturday at the America 250 block party brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, to email everybody back to let you know exactly what had taken place and how you can go about listening to the show. But again, I just wanted to take a moment and thank everybody who went and reached out. I just so greatly appreciate it. All right, let's go here. From Alpha News, former DFL state senator Nicole Mitchell is preparing for a run on the Woodbury City Council. The move comes less than 1 year after she resigned from the Minnesota Senate following her conviction for burglarizing her stepmother's home. According to the campaign website run by Mitchell, the former DFL state senator is asking donors to make checks payable to Nicole Mitchell for city council. You see, and when she campaigns, she won't go door knocking. She'll go basement window climbing. basement window climbing. You can thank the preloaded sound effects in the program that we're using. By the way, I am working on getting as much as I can. I haven't been able to do it yet, but in the hasty exit from Me Muscle, I unfortunately was not able to grab much of what I had on the computer system. So I need there's a lot of different items and parodies that I still need to get my hands on. I did have some that I had the opportunity to load up.
The best part of waking up is knowing Kamala lost to Trump.
But there's a lot of other items that I need to go and grab as well. Nicole Mitchell also links to an Act Blue page with the Nicole Mitchell Woodbury City Council logo. While Mitchell has not formally announced her candidacy yet, her website makes it clear she's preparing for another bid for office. The candidate filing period for the Woodbury City Council opens on July 14th. 2 Woodbury City Council seats are open for election this November. Man, do something else, you lunatic. This isn't, I don't believe for a moment that this is any sort of overwhelming desire to serve the public in what Nicole Mitchell is planning with this political comeback. It could be ego, it could be narcissism, it could be laziness. DFL benefits the quasi-celebrity that goes along with, serving in an elected position of power. But in no way, shape, or form do I believe that this at all is indicative of an individual who has a true desire to serve the public in a positive way. Because just like the Tesla vandal, normal people don't go and do what she did, breaking into her stepmother's home through the basement window in the dead of night after traveling for hours, having all the time in the world to rethink, your actions. Normal people do not go and do that. During her trial, Mitchell's defense team argued that Mitchell was in the home, and this would have been the burglary conviction stemming from the April 24th incident in which Mitchell broke into her stepmother's Detroit Lakes home in the early morning hours. During the trial, the defense team argued that she was in the home to perform a welfare check, because that's what you do, as we've argued before. You climb in through basement windows. Don't tell somebody that you're in the home to perform a wellness check. Just wanted to check on you. They don't want to disturb you, so I broke in. Just want to make sure you're good. She said she did this because her stepmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The prosecution argued that Mitchell was there to steal items belonging to her late father. After her felony conviction, Mitchell resigned from the Senate and was sentenced to 6 months in jail, 5 years of supervised probation. According to her sentencing order, Mitchell was ordered to report to the jail in October of 2025 and released in January. Now, Alpha News did reach out to the campaign. Didn't hear back. That's not a huge surprise. To be a candidate for the Woodbury City Council, they must reside in the city for at least 30 days before the general election, be 21 or older upon assuming office, and be an eligible voter. Convicted felons in Minnesota can vote as long as they are not currently incarcerated. I guess the question is she going to get elected? I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, because she's anti-Trump. It's that simple. I mean, this is where we are now. I mean, this is what led to the whole pardon of the convicted illegal immigrant who had repeatedly raped a 10-year-old girl. I question whether or not, Thief Ellison and Dim Walls were even given, I don't want to give them any sort of out on all of this, but I wonder how much they even knew before they went and pardoned this guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. In my view, they're evil enough to go and do this just to try to show up Trump. But you had the Star Tribune that got in on this action, cheered Walls for backing the pardoning of this convicted pedophile. And in that article, which I'll share with you coming up, the author, Rochelle Olson, said Vang's actions 20 years ago. By the way, he was convicted of sexually assaulting this 10-year-old girl for a long period of time. As you'll hear in the clip from Walls, where he says we shouldn't be judged by our worst day. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and I'll play it for you now.
I guess the question I would ask is
hold on a second. Not sure why we had our first technical.
I guess the question I would ask is
hold on.
Did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind?
This is why we test things before we go live on Monday.
I guess the question I would ask is did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? And I want to be very clear, these are horrific crimes.
Yeah, this whole idea of being judged by your worst day. Rochelle Olson in this article, and again, I'll give you more details coming up here in just a moment on the show, says Vang's actions 20 years ago were awful, but so were the violent protests at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th of 2021, and those folks received presidential pardons. Listen, even if you want to make the comparison, of which it's utterly stupid to go and do, ridiculous, kind of insane, even if you want to make the comparisons, two things can be true at once in this circumstance. You can be upset that individuals who were involved in January 6th were pardoned, and you can also be upset that Vang, a convicted pedophile, was pardoned. You can do both, but that's not what Trump derangement syndrome demands of you. Trump derangement syndrome demands that if it's anything relating to making Trump look bad, then you need to support that, even if it means pardoning a heinous individual like this. So I'll give you some details coming up in just a moment. And again, I do want to talk a bit about my road trip, especially in the wake of the America 250 Block Party celebrations, where we made the announcement about this very show. Let me go ahead and take a moment, though, and provide for you some more social media commentary. If you follow any of my social media feeds, specifically TikTok, which I don't think you can really call. I used to call it the Chinese spyware app, but it's not owned by. I think Oracle now handles all the algorithms for it at this point in time, right? I think at least that was my understanding. Maybe the former Chinese spyware app. Anyway, if you follow me there at Jon, Jon Justice, you can check out some of this commentary. These were some videos that I posted over the course of the past month. One of the clips here is talking about the latest Kamala Harris word salad that she provided while out speaking with the media here on the Jon Justice Show, presented by American Experiment and AmericanExperiment.org.
You know what's even more distressing than the thought of Governor Tim Walz being the vice president of the United States of America? It's the fact that Kamala Harris could have been the president of the United States of America. This was on the Don Lemon Show this week. Watch.
I really, truly believe this. We each have light inside of us. And we need to know that that is what inspires our hope as much as anything external to ourselves. And when we feel that and not allow an election or an individual to dampen that light, and instead let that light kind of carry us in particular through moments of darkness, that we not only act on that hope, but we inspire that hope in each other. And in particular at this moment, it is so important that we not only have hope, but that we understand that that should be a verb.
You know what the worst part about that clip is? It's not the word salad that she spewed on the Don Lemon Show. It's the fact that Don Lemon took her seriously. We would have fewer politicians, and especially those on the left, if they weren't just given a free pass every time they do an interview and they say something completely nonsensical. But Don Lemon just nods along. Yeah, so deep. And he's not a dumb person. He understands that there was no substance to what Kamala Harris was talking about. I mean, she might as well have been referring to the mythology of the Force in Star Wars, the dark side and the light side. No, he knows that was a bunch of gobbledygook, but he's not going to dare go and call her out on it or make a comment negatively after that interview's done because of the liberal agenda. They have so little to run on. I see these headlines and I have to look at them twice because even though I shouldn't be shocked, I'm still just going, oh my gosh, it's never ending. The Small Business Administration announced today, Friday, January 2nd, that they are halting payments to some 7,000 recipients of taxpayer money going back to the pandemic because they believe that it's fraudulent, to the tune of $400 million. Now, I had to do a double check because I'm like, wait a second. This isn't autism. This isn't daycare centers. This isn't transportation. This isn't housing stabilization services. This isn't feeding our future. This is pandemic era PPE funding that people were still receiving to the tune of almost $500 million. Right now, any single program here in Minnesota that is receiving Medicaid dollars, taxpayer dollars coming from the federal government to go to social services, every single program needs to have their payments stopped right now. I get it. This is going to be and could be devastating for those individuals that need those services, but we're beyond the point of messing around at this point in time. Every single one of these programs should have the payments stopped until they are fully investigated. We need hundreds of individuals on the ground here in Minnesota to determine exactly which programs aren't fraudulent and to begin charging the individuals who are responsible for perpetuating this fraud. Instead, what do we get? We get Democrats holding press conferences with individuals who are a part of the community attempting to go and discredit the fraud that's going on, even though it's right there in the open, blatant, in all of its misspellings for everybody to see. Listen, when I went on vacation, I never anticipated that I would be coming back after 2 weeks to the level of news that we have to share about just how broken the state of Minnesota is under Governor Tim Walz and Democrat leadership. I hope you'll...
Justice. Got to get the old Me Muscle address out of my head. That's my new term for the previous employer. Me Muscle. Jon.Justice at AmericanExperiment.org. So I needed to go and visit family. I had not been out to see my mom in a handful of years, and it was a couple of years since I've been out to see my dad. My mom lives in Arizona, in Chino Valley, just outside of Prescott, and my dad lives in Southern California. So I decided, and I'd researched a couple of different ways, but I decided that I would do a road trip. I bought my 23 Kia Stinger that I have named Monty. For a number of different reasons. Partly from Monty Python, but I wrote a series of science fiction books, and one of the main characters, Luna, has an AI inside of her vehicle, and its name was Monty, of which I had pulled from Monty Python, so it's kind of a loose reference there. So I hadn't taken a long trip with Monty. It is a grand touring car, hence the GT in the title. I had a whole discussion with Kyle about this. So I'd researched about, well, okay, if we fly, what's it going to cost? What's the travel going to be if we were to go and fly? And I decided, you know what? I haven't had the opportunity to go and take a lengthy road trip with Kyle. I've been on a few with my other son, Logan, who's now 24. He actually drove with me here to Minnesota when I had first gotten the job with Me Muscle. And we'd also done some trips by ourselves from Southern California to Arizona. So this was a great opportunity for Kyle and I to hit the road for 10 days and see the country and go and visit family. And that's exactly what we did. We ended up, I think at the end we went through some 10 states, went over the Colorado Rockies, went through Monument Valley, ended up going to the Grand Canyon in our travels through Arizona, went to Southern California, ended up going to Disneyland for a day, met up with my brother, and just had an absolutely fantastic trip. I had my car inspected before we left. I had made sure that the tires were great on Monty, everything was functioning the way that it should. I mean, I had already kept up on the maintenance of it. I'd had it less than a year. I'd had him less than a year. But they had said, asked about the tires. His tires are all fine. So the right rear's got some wear on the inner liner, but I told them the trip that I was taking, how long we were going to be, where we were going, and they said it should be totally fine. You should be able to, you shouldn't have any problems on the trip. And you probably won't need a new set of tires until you get closer to the winter. I'm like, fantastic. We were on the road on the final day. We were about 1 hour from home. And I think I calculated we traveled between 47 and 5,000 miles in total on this trip. We were just outside Shakopee, and there was construction going on where it was narrowing down from 2 lanes to 1. We had just stopped off at like one of the last major rest stops coming up through the south part of Minnesota. We've been on the road just a handful of minutes, and suddenly my tire pressure warning indicator popped up for the right rear of the vehicle. And I got stuck in traffic because there was a light up ahead. And like I said, we had narrowed down to 2 lanes. I was watching the gauge as the air just slowly went and seeped out of the tire. I said, listen, we got a flat. We got to get it off the road. There's a parking lot right there adjacent to the highway. I just need to get to it. By the time we actually got pulled off, I think I had between 4 and 2 pounds of pressure left. We pulled over to the side of the road, and I actually purchased, for this very reason, I purchased a patch repair kit. I had the green goop that you go and you squeeze into the tire to fill the hole. And then I also had a pump that I could plug into the adapter in the driver console. So we get off the road. I'm looking for I'm trying to feel for a nail or a hole. I'm not identifying anything, and I'm like, all right, well, let's get the repair kit out. Because the trunk was filled and the spare was underneath everything, so the trunk was completely the back. It's the Kia Stinger is kind of a hatchback. It's kind of a 4-door hatchback sedan, and we had the entire trunk filled. And so I thought, let me go ahead and see if I can't get the patch goop in it just to get us home because we weren't that far from home. The cap for the goo is what you use to pull out the inner valve of the air valve. So you got to pull that out so you can squeeze the goop in, and then you put it back in. You fill it with air, and it cycles through, and it's supposed to patch the hole at least enough to get to where you need to go. It's made of plastic though, so when I put the tool in to get the inner valve out, it broke. The tool broke. I'm like, well, that's that. I have no other way to get this valve out. So I just said, hey, let's go ahead and get the spare. So we emptied the trunk, we get the spare out, and this is the first time he's ever had to help, change a tire before. And so we finally go and we pull the tire off, and I posted images online. The tire was from the inner liner almost to the halfway point was completely bald, and the entire inner part of the right rear tire had cupped. It was down to the radials. You could see the metal of the tire. I had never seen anything like that before. I was absolutely stunned at how worn this tire was. And it was funny because I posted the link online and somebody made a comment that, well, if the tires were fine, you should have been able to drive about 5,000 miles. And I was thinking when I saw the post, I'm like, yeah, that's what I drove. Not only that, but we were driving through the desert for hours on end, and it was like 115, 120 degrees outside. And I remember in one of the hotels that we stayed at, I think we were in Utah, where the news reports were actually talking about the road temperature because of the external heat, saying that the temperature of the roads had reached like 150 degrees, and it was really dangerous for traversing the highways. So we basically melted the tires off the car, which really stunk too, because I'm glad it happened when it did, because if it had happened at any other point on the trip, it would have been absolutely disastrous. And so having it happen just an hour from home, we threw the spare on. Of course, it's oddly sized and limped it home, and I immediately, even before I unpacked the car, I immediately took it over to Tires Plus to put new shoes on Monty, just because but it cracked me up because as we got off to where we live in Blaine, like 125th and 65, I just started, again, another moment on the show where I'm talking about me laughing. I started laughing, and Kyle's like, what are you laughing at? And I said, I'm laughing at two different things. I'm laughing, one, because both of my boys are huge fans of the movie Speed Racer. And if you've seen the end of the Speed Racer film, when he wins spoiler alert, when he wins the race at the end, the car comes to a screeching halt and it slides right up into frame, and it kind of settles. And as it does, like the wheels are melting, there's oil dripping out of the car. So I get this vision in my head as we're pulling into our neighborhood. I've got a spare on the back. The tire that melted is in the back seat of the car. We're both haggard because we've been on the road now for like 11 hours. And I'm just laughing going, what an appropriate way to arrive back home from this 10-hour, 5,000-mile road trip than just like returning home from we're returning from battle. Like we pulled it off. Because that was one of the things when we were driving. I was like, I told Kyle a couple times, I was like, you know what? I know that we're out here in the middle of nowhere and there is nothing out in front of us. Like we were out in Wyoming driving home. And it was just miles and miles with nothing, just nothing. Makes me laugh every single time I take a road trip like that. And I did many when I was younger with my father. It made me laugh because at the time they were always talking about overpopulation. And if you hit the road in America at any point in time, overpopulation is a joke. There is so much available land out there. The same thing rings true when it comes to arguments regarding landfills. How can we have a landfill? We're going to ruin the environment. Dude, do you have any idea how much empty land is actually out in this country? But I told them, I said, you know what? Once we're home and we're done with this entire trip, all this boredom that we're experiencing on the road right now will be an afterthought, and all we'll have were the memories. And I was thinking exactly the same thing when we went through this experience with the tire as well. It's one of the circumstances where, sure, I would have liked to have gotten home, but in hindsight, would I have traded the experience? No, it was great. What a great way, what a great story to be able to share, on a dry run show as I launch a new show, because I'm so blessed to be able to continue to do what it is that I love to do and what I firmly believe God put me on this planet to do. I absolutely believe that, and I just feel so blessed to be able to do the show here, and now partnered with Center of the American Experiment. But while we were on the road, you stopped to get gas. We did very little sightseeing. I mean, we did go through a lot of these national monument parks and the Grand Canyon and all that, which was great. Brought a tear to my eye. I kept Kyle had been to the Grand Canyon when he was really, really little, but he didn't remember it. So I just kept calling it a big hole in the ground. We're gonna go see the big hole in the ground. Let's go to the big hole in the ground. And when you get to, we were on the southern rim of the Grand Canyon. When you get there, you can't see it when you arrive. You kind of go up into the mountains a bit, and then as you get closer to where the edge of the Grand Canyon is, it clears a bit. But again, the way the topography is, or the way the geography is, you have to get out of the car, go up a bit of an incline for a decent ways before you actually go and see the Grand Canyon. And it makes for an amazing experience because, like, as you walk up from the parking lot and you're traversing these taxpayer-funded, nice concrete trails, right, and all the signage, the Grand Canyon kind of reveals itself to you. At least it did in the moment that we were going up there. There's the trees sort of around you, and the trees kind of give way, and as you slowly walk up this incline, you can see the edge of the guardrail. You can kind of see way off into the distance the Grand Canyon, but then it really is right as you step up, and it kind of opens up, and the Grand Canyon just sort of exposes itself. And I'm taking this all in because it had been years, a decade since I'd been to the Grand Canyon with my father. And I'm kind of keeping an eye on Kyle out of the corner of my eye, and I'm watching him. And you could see his whole body and his expression and his demeanor change from dad joking around with, this is nothing but a big hole in the ground, to actually seeing this natural wonder. I mean, just the beauty of what God can create to be exposed out there. And he even made a comment. It's like, that is not just a hole in the ground. He was just taken in by the majesty of it all. It was just an absolutely incredible moment. But as we were traveling, every single stop that we made, there was America 250 promotional items. And at first I thought, oh, that's interesting. And we're talking random gas stations, random rest stops. We're driving through Utah, Monument Valley, and through that area on, I think it was Highway 80, but forgive me for not remembering. But we're driving through, and a lot of times these are major thoroughfares through these states that go through these national parks. But at the same time, they're also dotted with these little tiny towns. So they'll go down to like one lane and you'll have to go really slow. I mean, it's like, and when you're on a road trip like that, like you're trucking. Like, speed limit's like 75 miles an hour. And before you know it, it like immediately drops to 45. It's like, whoa! I got to slow the car down. Don't want to get a ticket. Did not get pulled over once. I was so proud of myself. But we're going through these little tiny towns, and there are these hotels that you would have to pay me, and there is not enough money in the world that you could pay me to stay at any of these hotels. Independently owned. I don't know who is staying with them. They don't even look like they're opened. But outside of the buildings were these massive America 250 banners. And you saw this stuff all across the country, from here to Arizona, California, and back. And we took two different routes. We went down through Colorado and Utah on the way there, and on coming home, we went up through Las Vegas into Utah, and then up through Wyoming, and then sort of took a northern route because I didn't want to take the same route both ways. I was also trying to get to some cooler temperatures on the drive back too. But I was so impressed. I was so impressed at how much the rest of the country was embracing this idea of America 250, what it means for this country, and how important it was, and the fact that clearly, and I would be very interested to know what the I'd be very interested to know how these various businesses, because right on down to hotels I wouldn't stay at, to gas stations that I wouldn't go and stop at, to the really nice chain ones that you see, all had America 250 stuff, from banners to kiosks. They had displays where you can buy all this America 250 merch. They had cups at one place that were all red, white, and blue, and they were marked specifically by the employees as America 250 cups, and they had straws that they were like, these straws can only go with the America 250 beverage holders. And I was like wondering, I'm like, did they sign up for this? Did the administration just send this out to all of these locations? But it really gave me a sense of pride in this country and a unique perspective that I didn't have before this trip, about how the majority of individuals in this country still love this country. You do a show like this, you follow and listen to a show like this, you pay attention to the news, you listen to the commentary provided by Catherine and Grace on the American Experiment podcast. You know how the left speaks of the country and how much they talk about all these various false narratives relating to systemic this and racism that and bigotry, blah, blah, blah. And they want to paint, this country as this place that needs to change, that isn't founded in anything positive or virtuous. And it's just not true. That is a false narrative perpetuated by the left, all with an attempt to grow their power and retain that power and wield that power against individuals like you and me that love this country still. And I'm here in this moment to tell you that there are a lot of people out there that don't follow the news, that probably don't even align themselves really with politics, maybe don't even vote, but you know what? They love this country as much as you and I do. And they embraced and are embracing this idea of the celebration of the 250th of the United States of America. And there were a lot of reasons, most importantly, just the time I got to spend with my 19-year-old son that I will cherish for the rest of my life as being the most important aspect of taking this trip. But on top of that, a lot of different other reasons why that trip had to happen, and why I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Going on this trip being planned in the wake of almost 10 years of working and having success with me, Muscle, and them letting me go and then immediately being able to take this trip, but also being so grateful and blessed to take this trip, knowing that my future was secure, knowing that I had a lot of work ahead of me to do when I got off the road, but the understanding of my new employer, Center of the American Experiment, of me going on this trip for my son, and to the point where I get to do this show, and then starting on Monday, everybody will be made aware and can listen to the show Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. And again, I don't know if it's going to change the way that I go and do my show. I don't think that it is, but it is a perspective that I sorely needed. Because you lose perspective when you're in the middle of doing this and covering the news every day, and what we'll wrap up today's show talking about here in just a moment. You do tend to go and lose that perspective, and you don't even realize that it's happened. Because you're inundated with all this negativity. You're inundated with all these stories and behaviors from our elected officials where you scratch your head and you go, what in the world are you doing? How can you go and let a convicted child rapist be pardoned for his actions and then go and make a ridiculous statement like we shouldn't be judged on our worst day? You get inundated by this stuff, especially here in Minneapolis, especially here in Minnesota. And it's really easy, through no fault of your own, to end up having that frame your view of what's happening as the country as a whole. And I'm here to tell you that, you know what? There's a big portion of America, and it's a lot larger than you think, that is living out their best lives and still loves this country. And it's incumbent upon Republicans to do the right thing on the issues that we talk about every day. For those individuals who aren't out there paying close attention and aren't engaged. Because things will get bad when those people end up being affected and can't hide. And not even by choice. They just don't pay attention or follow the news. But when those individuals end up being impacted, and could end up being impacted, if Democrats were able to go and grab full control, not just here in Minnesota, but across the country. I mean, that's when we're going to be in big trouble, but we're not there yet. And I feel so blessed to be able to continue and to share that with you as I'm able to continue to do what I do. To that point, there is a lot of stuff to cover, and we'll certainly do that here on the remainder of what's left of today's show and coming up on Friday's show, which you can check out. It should be available now, depending on when you're listening to this, before we go live for the first official show coming up on Monday. But as I mentioned before, on July 1st, the news broke that a 3-person panel containing Governor Jim Walz and Attorney General Thief Ellison had pardoned a man who'd been convicted of repeatedly raping a 10-year-old girl, apparently to help him avoid deportation and remain in Minnesota. On July 10th, it was announced that the federal government had deported that man. Walz has since denounced the Trump administration's deportation of the individual. It should be stressed that the individual's worst day lasted 2 years. Again, going back to the comments by Governor Jim Walz.
I guess the question I would ask is did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? And I want to be very clear, these are horrific crimes.
I do not want to give, and I'll say it again, I don't want to give Governor Jim Walz a free pass on this, but I'm curious how involved and how aware was he? Because if he was fully aware of the crimes of this individual and still pardoned him, then he's more evil than even I already assumed that he was. There's polling data out now. A new survey done by KSTP, a Survey USA poll. Funny side note on this whole thing. So working at Me Muscle, I would go out of my way to not mention any potential competitors. So I don't have to really do that anymore. So whenever I would do KSTP, I would do Channel 5 instead because I didn't want to say their call letters. So no, I'm free. Sorry. Just wanted to point that out. The results of this KSTP survey poll shows that Governor Jim Walz's approval rating is continuing to drop, which is also the case for other DFL leaders. President Donald Trump's approval rating, on the other hand, rebounded slightly, although a major majority still disapprove of his work. Got to get that little jab in there, don't you? You know, the good news is there are voices that are out there that are speaking out against just how ridiculous the Democrat Party has become. I'll get to this in just a moment. But to the issue of the pardoning of Tulu Vang, a Ramsey County attorney's office opposed Tulu Vang's pardon, citing his lack of remorse and the victim's family pressure. Despite this, the Minnesota Board of Pardons granted the pardon, and Vang was later deported. The office also revealed that Vang's reduced sentence was due to the victim's family's pressuring her to not cooperate. And again, this speaks volumes, as if more needed to be said, and it doesn't, but it speaks volumes about Ellison, Walz, and the left as well. Ramsey County's attorney's office urged the Minnesota Board of Pardons to reject the convicted child sex offender Tulu Vang's request for clemency, and in doing so, shed new light on why he never spent a day behind bars. We do not support the pardon, prosecutors wrote, according to the newly obtained document. Despite that, the Minnesota Board of Pardons, consisting of Governor Jim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Chief Justice Natalie Hudson, voted unanimously to grant the pardon. Weeks later, the Trump administration did the right thing and announced that Vang had been deported from the United States after Secretary of State Marco Rubio revoked his legal status. The document. Okay, so maybe I guess I was a little bit confused over what his exact status was. The document also offers insight into why Vang, who pleaded guilty repeatedly to sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl over a 2.5-year period. It never served a single day in prison. Instead, Vang was placed on probation for 30 years in 2026. I mean, this is just a cascade of epic fails across the board of accountability. And the only reason why this individual was pardoned is because of Trump derangement syndrome. And it sounds so trite. And every single time I go and make a comment like that, I always think, man, is it becoming white noise at this point in time? But there's no other way to describe it. It is the all opposition all the time to the actions of President Donald Trump that keeps accountability from taking place of heinous individuals like this person that was thankfully deported because the administration went and did the right thing. The Minnesota Star Tribune columnist, Rochelle Olson, Rochelle. She published an editorial praising Dim Walz for standing by his vote to pardon Tulu Vang. It was in the weekly Cheers and Jeers column. Olson offered a cheers to Governor Tim Walz, arguing the governor refused to back down for criticism surrounding the pardon. Perhaps the most striking passage, according to the Alpha News article, of the editorial came when Olson defended Vang's pardon by comparing his crimes, repeatedly sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl. And I could say, listen, I could say now we're in a position now where I could actually go and talk about and mention what else was in here regarding the actions of this individual, but I won't because they are that heinous. I mean, this is, again, I have the freedom now because we're streaming the show and not on terrestrial radio, but I won't. But just imagine the worst and then take it a step further over what this individual did to a 10-year-old girl. Olson writes, Vang's action 20 years ago were awful, but so were the violent protests at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th of 2021. Those folks received presidential pardons. These individuals are evil. They're truly, truly evil. Some of them are writing columns, and they reach the individuals that I talked about before that don't pay close attention, that have succumbed to the propaganda of the left and just believe that everything that Trump does is bad. And that even to the point where if Trump was going to go and deport somebody who had been convicted of doing the most evil, vile acts to a 10-year-old girl, is justifiable in their mind as long as they feel like they're sticking it to Trump. These are the people that want to continue to hold positions of power and make decisions for average individuals. Writing columns that influence and perpetuate that mindset. Like Walz, Olson points to a letter from Vang's victim supporting the pardon. However, that letter was not included in the publicly released version of Vang's clemency application. The Star Tribune editorial also omitted several key facts that fueled the public controversy of Vang's pardon. Vang admittedly, repeatedly sexually assaulted the fourth grader over a period of more than 2 years. According to the criminal complaint, he told investigators the child should be arrested also because she was just as much at fault. I mean, does it get any worse? Perhaps most shocking was, despite pleading guilty to the first-degree criminal sexual conduct involving a child under 13, Vang never served a day in prison. Instead, he received a stayed 144-month sentence and was placed on probation. How has anybody ever... I mean, what does that do to a person? You're already so messed up in the head. You're already so twisted. Your sense of right and wrong and morality is so far off the map that you're willing to go and do what you did to a 10-year-old girl. And on top of that, you're not even given the possibility of any sort of accountability wherein you could go and understand how horrible, heinous, and gross and evil your actions were. And Keith Ellison needs to be brought into this mix as well. He denied, as the news broke, Attorney General Keith Ellison denied that this was the case regarding John Phelan here at Center of the American Experiment has a piece. Did Keith Ellison lie about his reasons for pardoning a child rapist? DHS is lying through their teeth about this pardon, he wrote. It does not protect Vang from deportation. And before Trump and his allies say a word about what anyone else does, they should stop pardoning pedophiles, fraudsters, and law enforcement assault insurrectionists, because the left has done a very good job of setting the stage to provide these types of lame, vapid arguments to their broken and brainwashed voters that they're willing to go and accept any excuse. Like, they're waiting for it. You have an individual on the left that hears about a convicted pedophile who receives a pardon, and hopefully there is an immediate reaction from everybody regarding a political party. Hopefully there's an immediate reaction that goes, oh my gosh, how did that person get pardoned? But those on the left, they're just waiting. Give me an excuse. Give me an excuse. Give me anything. Give me anything. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Trump pardoned pedophiles and fraudsters, and the January 6th guys got pardoned as well. They're just waiting for it. They've done a really, really good job of brainwashing and putting their voters in a position where they'll go and accept pretty much any excuse they'll go and give them. He goes on to say it's baffling that the media would highlight this singular decision from a month ago based on the false statement from an agency that has lied repeatedly to the American people, and that's part of an administration waging a relentless campaign of harassment and retaliation against Minnesota, including by unlawfully weaponizing criminal investigations. You know, one of the worst things about this current campaign cycle that we're in right now is the fact that Keith Ellison's out there campaigning, so you have to see him on social media all the time. The little man is such an absolute punk. You know, the good news is, as I mentioned before, talking about the rest of the country, we still live in an incredibly, in the greatest nation on the face of the planet. The fact that I'm able to continue to do what I do because of organizations like Center of the American Experiment and the work that they're doing and staying in this fight is a testament to that. And it's not just me either. There are other individuals, prominent commentators out there who, for whatever reason, because I always get confused by this, you see when Joe Rogan makes a comment, or in this case, what I'll play for you here in just a moment of Bill Maher. When you have Joe Rogan or Bill Maher doing commentary out in public, and they make like a common sense argument that other individuals, and I've had this happen to me several times. Like, you'll have Joe Maher make a comment Bill Maher. I crossed the streams there. Joe Rogan, Bill Maher. You'll have Bill Maher go and make a comment that aligns with something that perhaps I would say during my commentary, and people make a big deal about it. Oh, Bill Maher's talking about conservatism in a positive way. He's actually not, acting like a liberal, when there are plenty of other individuals that are out there making similar comments. But it carries more impact for a lot of people because here's a person that typically aligns themselves with the left. And I get it. So when Bill Maher goes and makes comments like what I'm about to share with you, talking with CNN, people absolutely...
Democrats are cowardly.
Yeah.
They're cowardly. Their party is being... Democrats are cowardly.
Yeah.
They're cowardly. Their party is being taken over now by... every day I hear about a new, very radical... I feel very good about, like 10 whatever years ago, like I did lose fans because, I wasn't going to go along with some of this crazy stuff on the left, too. I didn't change really on what I thought about the right, but I can't sit and just not notice stuff, which people seem to want to do because it's all about my team or your team. But, yeah, there's some crazy stuff, when we're cheering for the Intifada... I got cut. I'm out.
Well, I don't know if you saw Jay Clayton is nominated to be the head director of national intelligence. Had a hearing.
I heard somebody make, and I think it was by somebody here at Center of the American Experiment. I heard somebody make a comment, and it was one of the most how do I want to describe it? It was one of the most relevant comments about politics in Minnesota that I may have ever heard. The comment, and I think they had heard it from somebody else. And you have to forgive me if that individual happens to be listening here in the halls, and I'm not associating your comment with you, so my apologies. But the comment that you heard or that you said stuck with me. They said that people in Minnesota, Democrats in Minnesota, they want to vote for Democrats that vote like Republicans. And I was like, man, that is so incredibly relevant. They're right. But at the same time, they've done such a good job of, again, brainwashing the left to where that might be the case, which you would think would bring them over to vote for a Republican. But this is why Democrats have focused so much on making sure that they vilify Republicans every single opportunity that they get. They lie about how they're going to go and run, and then when they get in office, they act like the Marxist or the communist or the radical leftist that they really are. Now, that's not to say that the GOP doesn't have its share of problems. And as we begin to wrap up this first dry run of the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment, I want to preview what you'll be able to go and listen to immediately after ending this show on the Thursday podcast and video available on both the American Experiment YouTube page and also on my Jon Justice page, assuming all of that worked out the way that we had hoped. And so we've got our collective fingers crossed and the appropriate prayers made. The cool thing about what we're doing now is I don't have to adhere to any specific time. So I want to wrap up with an audio clip, and I'll be talking extensively about this on Friday's show, which, again, will be available now on the podcast. And you can go and search on any podcast platform for the Jon Justice Show, and you'll find it. But Mike Lindell, recently endorsed by President Donald Trump, and I'll talk about this at length on tomorrow's show. Mike Lindell proposed in a recent interview a 6-month amnesty for illegal immigrants. Now, he has come out with a sort of clarification, an 18-page document outlining his immigration reform policy, but there is no escaping the comments that he made in this interview. So before we wrap things up, let me share this with you as a preview of what you'll hear on Friday's dry run show here on the Jon Justice Show presented by American Experiment.
Here's what I propose is
and I'm going to have to figure out why. Let me see. I think I know why. I'm having an issue with the volume continuing to be turned down as we do an on-air production meeting. I think I know why. And we'll talk about it when we get off the air. Here's the comments, though, from MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell that have caused quite a bit of controversy, especially in the wake of his being endorsed by President Donald Trump.
Here's what I propose is I want to make conditional non-resident visas. And this would be, I'm going to actually talk to the president about this, but I want to start with Minnesota. These conditional non-resident visas, you would have 6 months. Anyone's here that is an illegal immigrant comes in, you get checked in the courthouse, you get fingerprinted, you get checked in to get this conditional non-resident visa. Now you have 6 months to do that. You're not a citizen, but you don't have to leave ever, as long as a couple of things happen. One is you can't.